And hello. Here we are again, earlier than expected.
Hello.
Hola.
I am joined again by Sarah and Cyrek, just like the last time. And we are finally getting to take a look at our Lord and Saviour's suggestion for treatment for his questionable diagnosis.
For all you bitter fucks.
Yes, we're all just bitter. We're not in pain, we're just bitter. You're not anxious, you're not panicking, you're just bitter. You're not traumatized, you're just bitter. I mean, it is, he calls it post-traumatic, but it's not stress you have, you're just bitter. You're just bitter from your trauma.
Yup.
You're not stressed from it at all. And hello, Gingerman. Thank you for your support. I just noticed that the go live timer on StreamYards and on YouTube, they're not synced. So while the timer in StreamYard still has a minute or two going, the one on YouTube is already finished. But that is side info. So we're doing this today already because, well, we might not meet for another week or longer, all three of us. And there was this window of opportunity and we seized it.
Like we do. You know, like the white people we are. I don't know
Wait.
what that meant. Like, I just got done yelling at people because apparently wanting to be skinny is racist. So, but that's a can of worms.
What?
Yeah, that's a thing now. Everything and anything is racist.
Well, because to be thin is to be white and to be fat is to be black, apparently.
What?
Warped senses of reality. Here we go.
And
It's
white...
just like Michael Linden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Yes, conflating a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of which, or whom? Again, always the robot. What's this button even for? Come on, nobody needs that. All right, we get to his paragraph of the treatment of embitterment, because you're just bitter. You're just not taking the abuse well. You should just roll over. And then we'll take a visit to the institute for his suggested therapy. So, yes.
Yes, probably see who is benefacting, who has money in that institute, because I bet it's him.
I mean, he references himself a lot.
I haven't dug through that, but since he's using the name a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So as we for a little recap, we came to the conclusion that what he's writing, his description of the disorder he sees, speaks of a complete misunderstanding of how the human mind works. It's self-contradictory. There are a few true sentences in this thing, but it's usually related to things that have nothing to do with the disorder, like when he's trying to distinguish it from something else. But then at the same time, he's mixing things up again. So his disorder is everything. It can encompass everything, yet is not dependent on it, but can be dependent on other things, yet does not need to. And everyone can have it, and half the population could have it, but his own sample sizes don't show the opposite, even among the clinical clinical patients. We looked at his questionnaire, or his self-test questionnaire, and came to the conclusion that thing doesn't even test for what he's looking for. But everything else, it has catch-all questions. It mostly asks PTSD questions, some depression questions, and then just one question about embitterment and 2 about revenge. In 19 questions. So it has 3 on the topic. Oh, yeah, so you can get very easily prescribed this nonsense. So the treatment of embitterment. Most therapists know embittered patients. All right, the TLDR I wanted to get to. His writing of this thing sounds like a narcissist who is projecting his narcissism onto the rest of humanity and has invented a nonsensical treatment for it, indeed, which we will get to. So, most therapists know embittered patients, whatever he means with that. It is a challenge to treat such patients as they often reject the help of others. So personally, it's usually the therapists who refuse to do anything. So I had a few good encounters, but I had a lot of narcissistic therapists who got passive aggressive. There was one, for example, in the in the first year of this whole PTSD thing, she wanted me to write down a timeline of the events that transpired, which is a good thing. It was extremely hard. I could only do it in English, not my native tongue, because it gave a bit of distance. And after 2 months, I had 6 pages of cliff notes. And when I gave them to her, I said I felt bad because it took so long, and I apologized because I told her this is only half of it. So I only got to the halfway point of the stuff that happened. I gave her 4 pages of cliff notes, and she took them with trepidation. And in the following 2 or 3 months, I would have to look it up on the calendar, she never read any of it. Because I kept asking her. She wanted this especially to understand what the hell was even going on. And yet never read it. And when I asked her about it, she just made excuses like, oh, she didn't have time. And in the last appointment the last actual session that I had, I suggested to her, well, if you never have time, how about next time we sit here? Because that was 2 months hard work for me with lots of breakdowns, because it gets right into the PTSD. Otherwise, you can't write it down. I suggested to her, well, then next appointment, you can just read it during the appointment, and then I'm just here, I sit here and can give answers to questions of comprehension that you might have, because there's surely something missing for you to easily understand. And she agreed to that a bit reluctantly. And the very next appointment, where she promised to do that, she instead opened the session with that she would cancel the therapy. Which led to a not very good reaction on my part. Very big breakdown. In her report then, she wrote, it was so bad that I had to call an ambulance and bring me to a clinic over the weekend, because I was without any help again. So, what did she write in her report? I was uncooperative with the therapist and the therapy. She didn't do any therapy. But she really wrote in. She never read the bloody thing. She never did anything relating to therapy. And in her report, she wrote that I was the uncooperative one. And this kind of young therapist, I believe, would be prone to call a patient like me embittered as a cop-out for her to keep face and never admit that she was the one who fucked up. So I don't know what you think about that kind of situation. Whether you believe me or not about the story, stories like this can happen all the time. This was simply a young fledgling therapist that maybe shouldn't be, and she couldn't deal with tough emotional shit. And if you can't deal with tough emotional shit, maybe you shouldn't be a therapist or try to be one. If you can't even read the chronology of someone's abuse, like what are you supposed to treat?
That's really bizarre.
Yeah, one encounter of many. As I say, there are good ones out there. Yeah. They're just very hard to find and usually have waiting lists that can span several years, which isn't going to help you much in the short term. So, story just came up because he claims patients reject the help of others. By which he means, but with others, he means therapists. So this would be true again for borderliners. They're very hard to treat, sometimes sabotaging their therapists, undermining them, manipulating them. For some of them, it's a game. So again, we get a possible projection of his own problems onto narcissists, or rather, him mixing up narcissists, or with the cluster B, with his with his own issues, while he claims that people with personality disorders that prior to this PTED thing can't have any personality disorders. So a narcissist couldn't have PTED in his worldview, while in reality the people I encountered that would fit the description of a delusional querulant is exactly narcissists and their derivatives. Yeah, I think derivatives is the correct noun. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Divergence?
No, from derivatives? Oh, fuck English.
I get your meaning.
Okay, that's something. Hey, that's better than Mr. Linden, who's a studied psychologist and writes nonsense lines like, "Do people had to reorganize their biographies?" Like, what?
Yeah, like, what the fuck does that mean?
Words. What do they mean?
I guess German, not speak of the English.
No, it has no. Even that. It's. I haven't looked up the sentence in German. I admit that. I haven't looked it up yet. Maybe later remind me of it. But I doubt. I've never heard that. Never before ever heard that sentence, because it still doesn't make sense in German. Because it's just literally the same words. Die Biografie reorganisieren. Like it's the same words, and it still makes no sense. It's like are you sorting your table of contents or what? It's nonsense. And we figured out what he means is, oh, your life takes another direction, which has nothing to do with reorganizing a biography.
Yeah,
it just continues its story into an unexpected direction.
Do you think that's actually maybe almost a Freudian slip? Like, he calls his life a biography because he sees his life in the view of trying to show it off to others. That his life is so important. Of course, everyone has a biography in their own head of their own life. Because
that's an interesting point. Also, if we take into account that he's a Catholic and probably believes in God's plan. Hello, Mike Tester.
Something already being written.
Yeah, that everything is already predestined, so all the books are already written, and you just have to reorganize how you understand yours. But what he describes in his other paper that we skimmed over, he just means your life takes a different turn from what you expected.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Mike Tester, what kind of animal is that?
Sir, did you suddenly get a bird?
I've always had a bird.
Is it an evil sloth?
Wait, you never told me you had a bird.
Yeah, his name's Shiloh.
What type of bird is he?
Cockatiel.
Oh, cockatiel. Well, that makes sense why there sounds like squeaking wheels.
He knows how to wolf whistle.
It's very important.
Yes. Also, Mike Testa's profile picture, I think, is just some random beast thing that he found.
Okay, I can't wolf whistle anymore. I got a tooth chipped and I can't work around it.
Oh. Well,
I would, but I don't want to bust people's eardrums.
I can't horse neigh the
What? Horse neigh?
Where you flap your lips up and down.
Like a horse.
Okay, I can't. I'm grinning, so I can't do that anyway. You need to relax lips for that.
Oh, there we go. And then I can only do it once, and then I try to go in.
Yeah, very scientific. All right, let's go on. Where was I? Yeah. There are indicators which suggest that many embittered patients are treatment resistant to general psychotherapeutic approaches. Yeah, like when your therapist isn't doing anything, is ignoring anything of substance that you say or bring forward, and just already has his own idea of it. Or on the patient side, well, if you have a cluster B patient, they tend to be a bit, let's say, sabotaging. Can you imagine having an antisocial patient? That is very unlikely to cooperate. To even get one. Well, probably, I think that the most likely chance is that you get one as who's still a child. You can't. I don't know what they'll do with that, because you can't diagnose antisocial behavior disorder until the patient is 18, for safety and legal reasons. Anyway, there are new and specific treatment concepts which refer to wisdom psychology.
Make a wisdom saving throw in therapy.
Yes. So that's number 66. Staudinger, Psychology of Wisdom, History and Recent Developments. 2008. Wisdom is a resilience factor needed when one is confronted with stress in life, and has been referred to as the ability to solve insolvable problems. You mean like trauma? Traumatic moments? Because trauma gets lots of PTSD, especially complex PTSD, comes from situations where you go into fight-flight mode, but neither fight is an option, nor flight. Doesn't work. So you go into the third option, which is freeze or shock. And that in itself is likely to cause trauma. Because usually you have these two other options. Fight, you can also understand as confrontation, or flight. But sometimes you cannot flee, you cannot get away, and then you're stuck. And have you ever tried confronting a gaslighter about the lies, especially alone? It's not gonna go well.
Especially without solid ass evidence. Even then, sometimes they'll even fucking deny proof of the eyes, proof of the security footage and voice recording.
Yeah, I mean, you've watched some true crime stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, I've watched some true crime stuff. I also, honestly, I'm mostly familiar with this because a couple of years ago, the way that I unwound and I kind of itched the gossip itch. You know, I like to hear about when shit's going down. There's a subreddit called Just Know Mother-in-Law, and it's about women complaining about their mother-in-laws, and that's really where I learned. I know it's a funny concept, but a lot of these women are like narcissists or borderliners, and sort of how they interact with their families, and these
The
other people that are sort
mothers-in-law
of
or the wives?
mother-in-law. So the wives are talking about their mother-in-law. Sometimes it can be their own actual mother, but usually. And so actually what it makes me think of with the gaslighter denying it in front of your face reminds me of something they came up with called the narcissist's prayer.
Prayer.
The narcissist prayer.
Okay.
Hold on. I had to find this because
What? Oh, Just Know Mother-in-Law?
the narcissist prayer. Oh
No, I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I haven't. That's a term I haven't heard yet.
It's called That Didn't Happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was not a big deal. And if it is, it's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it.
Oh.
That's the narcissist prayer.
That sounds exactly like all the things they say.
Yep.
That all those things come up in gaslighting. And all those things are being said by followers of horrible genocidal ideologies about their genocides and other atrocities.
It's a coinkydink, ain't it?
Oh dear. Oh dear. I mean, some things are deserved, but it's rarely the case when a narcissist did it.
It's just kind of about the levels of excusing their behavior that they go to. Where if you bring physical proof that it didn't happen, and you say it did, here's physical proof, it wasn't that bad. That's immediately what they're going to go to. And you try to prove that it was that bad, it's not a big deal. Or it's not my fault, I didn't mean it, or the very worst, you deserved it. So you can't even bring solid proof to their eyes because they won't.
Oh, you can also bring into that in this matter, proof, evidence, and logic don't matter. I've got that one a couple times. That evidence doesn't matter.
Evidence doesn't matter.
Logic doesn't matter.
What?
I got this from people in an alleged science club.
I hear that bird.
Yeah. So yeah. Dealing with a gaslighter or dealing with and it's this here an insolvable problem is, for example, being stuck in a religious cult that is actually abusing you as a kid. How are you supposed to solve that? That is going to traumatize you. It's not going to give you embitterment disorder, this nonsense. It's going to give you complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which Mr. Linden here also wants to replace with his embitterment crap. And since he is a Catholic, I'm not just foreshadowing, I'm spoilering. I think his diocese should be looked into, especially if there are any of these shenanigans going on.
I think all dioceses should really be checked out.
Yeah, because under his logic, if something bad happened, a negative life event that wasn't deadly, which can be sexual child abuse, if you are really, really technical about it. That's just you just have to reorganize your biography and you're just bitter. You should forgive and stuff. Yeah, right? No?
Yeah, God intended it, so really.
Yeah, that on top of it.
Yeah, like, God intended that. Honest to God, fuck him. Fuck it. Fuck you and your church and your fucking God that will punish people for leaving it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's also, as we said before, it's horrible regimes like East Germany. There was one more thing I wanted to say on this. It escapes me again. Yeah, but by his logic, those things are just strong stress in life. So because everything he says can be missed by what he puts up. All hard PTSD can be re-diagnosed as his PTED. If we keep in mind his questionnaire for that. And hello, Simon Carlson. Great you managed to catch us. Mike Tesla, can we read that? Maybe make up with Mike. Oh yeah, that's a standard story. I've heard this from a friend of mine. She has a rape story behind her, and she also got the treatment that her previous friend circle, of which the rapist is a part of, she frequently got told by those friends from that friend circle that, oh yeah, I believe he did that, but don't you want to come back to us? You always had so much fun. They weren't ostracizing the rapist though. They were just expecting her to come back and come to parties where that guy would be. While they believed that he did it.
They believed.
Yeah.
But and if it did happen, it wasn't a big deal.
That's so stupid.
Yeah. And yeah, I got similar stuff. All the minimalization, and they expected me to come back to the club I helped found if I apologized to, paraphrased, my abusers. Then I could feel welcome again.
Sex to fucking piss on that bitch.
The people they replaced me with, that they brought in from the outside to replace me with, to make them members in secrecy while knowing it would cause stress, and then blamed me for bringing my problems into the club. That was their excuse to ostracize me. While I asked for, this person abused me, and I know of other people whom were abused by this person. Can you please? I would like protection against that. So this is not some safe space nonsense crap. This is because the safe space crap is against groups of people based on arbitrary characteristics and immutable characteristics. That's why these safe spaces are actually quite fascist if you think about it. What I wanted is a specific individual, because, well, my mental health, and I worry about all the other friends I have in this place that are vulnerable to this kind of abuse, vulnerable to this manipulation because they lacked experience with it. And I got rejected by that, and they all stuff. My private communication was intercepted. Documents were swept under the rug. There was slander and everything you can imagine. And a year later, I was told that I would be fully banned because they worry about the mental health of my abuser. And yeah, the very thing that they a year before wrote down, they would deny me because my mental health isn't an issue of the club. But now the mental health of my abuser is an issue of the club, so they will ban me forever. So my abuser got exactly what I wanted, the protection that I wanted. This is how they turn around the perpetrator-victim narrative, which is something that in just these few lines, Mr. Linden is already doing and blaming everything on the patients. Because the therapist, of course, can never do wrong, right? Because he is equating all patients with narcissists and borderliners and worse. while before claiming that the patients of his PTED cannot have personality disorders prior to this, and you do not get a narcissistic personality disorder later in life. That's just something you never grew out of as a child. And this is the salesman trick, or the snake oil trick, by which he justifies this as its own thing, by rejecting personality disorders as the cause of this behavior. But he does admit that certain personality disorders or rather personality types, which when he describes them, sound exactly like personality disorders, the ones I've been mentioning. So if when I write this down for an actual script, I think my head is going to explode by the mental gymnastics he's putting into this paper. Sorry, I'm getting there's so much wrong in this thing. So it has been shown that wisdom is more important for life satisfaction than money or material things, and contributes to resilience in the face of life burdens in general. I don't know if wisdom is that, but yeah, certain growth of consciousness can lead you to understand that all the petty things that were important to you as a child, they're not what life is about. They're just your free time diversions. It can therefore be assumed that wisdom could also be a protective factor with regard to embitterment, although empirical proof is still pending. So he admits that his idea is up to question.
Like, I haven't, like, this is totally true. I mean, I haven't tested it or anything, but yeah, that's totally this.
It would be the TLDR. All right, Mike, I'm sorry, I forgot you. Mike said, yes, we can do this. So, I had an ex-friend who would constantly try to make up with by constantly making me be friends again with said person. And I would not stop. Yeah, that's kind of it. There are people I call harmony addicts. And they're the types who do this kind of stuff. I'd say they're also emotionally immature. How much narcissism that is up to debate. Just because you can have some lacking developmental parts that are still stuck in second order consciousness. Doesn't mean you have a full-fledged narcissistic personality disorder. But this is usually a bit of an indicator for at least a passive-aggressive narcissistic style. So these types, in some way, cannot cope with the fact, with the reality that people around them are just bad people. So they will force you or want you to make up with whomever bad person there is, because they do not want to lose anyone in their social circles, no matter how bad. And so any problem that comes up, they will forcefully sweep under the rug and forbid everyone to ever bring it up and ever talk about it. So any issues will remain unresolved, small and big. And I've met people like that in the political party I was in, and that over time just poisoned absolutely everything, because you just have accumulating issues between people that never get resolved. And the club I was talking about, same thing. No issue between members of that club was ever resolved, because they just claimed, oh, that's the moderator's job. If people have problems with each other, they should seek out the moderator. But the board never told people that, hey, if you have a problem, maybe you should talk to the moderator. Because that's also part of the job of a board. The job of a board of a club is also the peace within the club, and that means that you resolve issues. You can say 1,000 times that, oh, we're just here for the organizational stuff. Like, do you have any interest in your place running smoothly and being productive and having a nice atmosphere? Especially when you have a credo or slogan like "Be excellent to each other." Like, that doesn't work by demanding it, that you ignore all problems and just act nice. Then you get a Stepford wife problem? Something like that.
Catty bitches. Stepford wife's a bit more.
Okay, then I mean something else.
Yeah, Stepford
It's
wife's
like
usually rich white women.
You're forcing everyone to act nice in the face of knowing that everything is poisoned.
Yeah.
This is something that these SJWs are also very good at. Problems are only the out groups, and the in groups must play nice. And if you don't, you get ostracized completely. And usually they ostracize the wrong person. They ostracize the actual victim of whatever the problem is. And that's how what enforces itself over time is a culture of the people, the worst people with the biggest elbows staying and winning. And that's how you get a tyranny and corruption and despotism. Sorry for the drift. God. Yeah, but I agree with the TLDR. Can you repeat it?
Who's TLDR?
The one that I gave.
What? Oh?
The TLDR.
Yeah. Of this first paragraph. You said that very nicely.
Oh, I don't remember what I said.
The last sentence was, it can therefore be assumed that wisdom could also be a protective factor with regard to embitterment, although empirical proof is still pending.
Oh, the TLDR is, this is totally a thing. I mean, I haven't checked it. I'm not gonna, but it's totally a thing, guys.
Yeah. So what was that? 76? 76 is his own paper again.
Oh,
Linden
geez.
M. Wisdom and wisdom psychotherapy in coping with stress. 2013. Okay, so he's referencing something from 8 years ago, and he still doesn't know whether it has any effect. Any measurable effect.
Lol, what the fuck?
Yeah, but then again, for proof of his stuff here, he only has what was the other thing? Oh, well, that was also from 2013. Only had 4 test samples, of which even the one most in his favor was not proving his theory, and overall they were disproving his theory. So wisdom therapy, references 68 to 70. Let's see. That is 68. Baumann K. Linden M. Weisheitskompetenzen und Weisheitstherapie. Die Bewältigung von Lebensbelastungen und Anpassungsstörungen. 2008. This means wisdom competences and wisdom therapy. The overcoming of life burdens and I know the word for this. Anpassungsstörung. Adjustment disorders. So he wrote the paper on wisdom therapy, apparently, in 2008. Okay. There's no link here, by the way. 69. Linden M. Baumann K. Lieberei B. Lorenz Rotter. Treatment of post-traumatic embitterment disorder with cognitive behavior therapy based on wisdom psychology and hedonia strategies. That just sounds like absolute bullshit. Psychotherapy, psychosomatics. 2011. So he thinks he is replacing post-traumatic stress disorder with his embitterment disorder and thinks he can treat this trauma with cognitive behavior therapy. We already have, and in 2011 already existed, therapies for post-traumatic stress. So at least for, simply said, post-trauma. That is the same, even if there's a difference here with his embitterment, if we give him the benefit of the doubt, it's still post-trauma. Post-trauma works the same. It's stuck in the forefront of your memory and is not being processed, is not being shoved through your limbic system. Like there's, you know, this children's toy with the square, the circle, and the triangle.
Yeah.
Post-trauma is a star. It's star-shaped. How do you get that through that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. And there are therapies like EMDR, that is eye movement, the eye movement desensitization. Okay, let me look it up for a moment. I've done this once for one thing, and it works. It fucking works. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yeah, it's
And this shit-
reprocessing the brain.
Yeah, through you mimic the REM eye movements with that, and that activates manually activates the limbic system. So, like, imagine you have a oh god, words. Imagine you have a slow hamster wheel. So normally, when you have your REM sleep, you have a hamster wheel turning that activates your limbic system. But the trauma stuff is never pushed through because the star-shaped hole is missing. And with EMDR therapy, imagine you have a hand crank with which you, in your waking state, manually turn it, and it's creaking, but you're opening up that star-shaped hole so that you can get the star-shaped piece through that thing in your limbic system. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the general idea. So just that you get an idea of that this shit works. And I have about to deal with half a dozen trauma complexes. I had one that was the most intense one. I managed to get a session of EMDR with that, and it took me 3 months of preparation. Like I was handwriting down the thing in absolute detail, so that no surprises would come up when we do the actual thing. And you do some other things while you do that. You have to deliberately call up the trauma, not fully break down from it, do the eye movement. There are some tools to assist with that, and replace the cognition or end the story with your newfound knowledge. And you have to correctly identify the cognition you had during that time so that you can update it. You're not changing the memory. You're just updating the situation with your newfound knowledge of, well, what would you do now that you know better, that you know more? Something like that. And this can take over an hour. But with that worst and most volatile PTSD part, or complex PTSD element, I had, like, within the day, a reduction of, I'd say, rough guesstimate of 80% intensity and likelihood that it would come up. And this thing is, when I have the big breakdowns, this one is not coming up anymore.
Wow.
So there are therapies that really, really help with getting rid of trauma. Stuff's still there, it's not completely gone, but it is on a manageable level. And cognitive behavior therapy is not going to help with post-trauma of whatever kind. That's bullshit. At best, you get coping strategies, and that's just suppressing the shit. And Mr. Linden M just wants us to condone what happened, not accept. People often talk about radical acceptance, but what they, in practice, then want from the patient is not acceptance of that the thing happened for real. This is something that trauma patients often already do. They just can't understand why. But what therapists like Mr. Linden want of patients is usually not acceptance of that the thing happened, that it's real, that it really truly happened, but instead that the patient condones that it happened. Just roll over, the other form of acceptance. So, and his wisdom psychology and hedonia strategies. That hedonia, I have no idea what hedonia strategies means. It sounds to me, my instant guess would be distractions that make you happy. Like maybe an eating disorder. That's certainly a hedonia strategy.
You forget about your problems by making more problems.
Oh, second link that comes up. So the first one is just generally talking about. Oh, we couldn't look at this for a moment. The second link is a paper by Linden M. So, and this other one is for predicting functioning well-being experiences. This is something else. There's no Linden M in here, and I don't instantly remember the people here. So this is a journal of happiness studies. Okay, so this seems to be something completely else. Oh. Limitations to happiness and life satisfaction, the full life versus the empty life. This could be, I think this article might be referencing a certain Dr. Peterson. No, it's another. It's a Christopher Peterson, not the other Peterson we know. Anyway.
Monster King, damn.
Yeah, but even from the short version, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with what Mr. Linden talks about, because the second link that turns up is Treatment of Post-Traumatic Embitterment Disorder by M. Linden, 2011. Treatment of Post-Traumatic Embitterment Disorder with Cognitive Behavior Therapy based on wisdom psychology and hedonia strategies. The exact thing we're just reading.
So he's already tried to do this before?
No, it's just him. Only he writes about this.
I see.
Oh, here's another thing. Treatment of post-traumatic embitterment disorder. Additional hedonia strategies did not lead to better treatment effects. Conclusions and results of this pilot study suggest that wisdom psychology Oh, it's a Linden M paper from 2011.
This man likes to cite himself a lot.
Oh, God.
Yeah, see, I totally am
God.
right. See, look, I said it earlier, too.
You think he's a narcissist?
Definitely. At the very least. I think he's something worse, but he's at the very least a narcissist. Wait. Okay. So the sentence conclusions. The results of this pilot study suggest that wisdom psychology offers an approach to treat PTED and justify further randomized controlled outcome studies. Although he said in the sentence before the conclusions, in clinical ratings by therapists and patients, both specific treatments were judged as more effective than treatment as usual, whatever that means. Additional hedonia strategies did not lead to better treatment effects. So just from this part, this sentence is important because this paper is from 2011. What Mr. Linden was citing is a paper from 2011. It might be this one. Sorry, I did not. Volume 18, number 4. Sorry, I'm not super attentive on picking up on the patterns here. Oh yeah, that is 84. That is this paper that we're just reading. which stated that hedonia strategies do not help. But in his reference, he's writing that treatment of post-traumatic embitterment disorder with cognitive behavior based on wisdom psychology and hedonia strategies. Okay, he's citing the title. My bad. If you just read the reference, it implies that this might be a useful thing.
That proves his point, and then in fact it actually does the opposite.
Yeah. So maybe at least that's why he doesn't cite hedonia strategies in here. But let's just check if we have the word anywhere. It's just in the thingies. I got a bit carried away. I'm sorry. So much crap. Good. And did it go to 70? Yes. And 70. Linden M. Lieberei Noack. Wisdom attitudes and coping in life of psychosomatic patients. So all these references are his own. Everything he cites for wisdom therapy is his own stuff, his own papers. Wisdom therapy, based on cognitive behavioral therapy, tries to enhance the wisdom competencies of patients.
Wisdom competency?
Wisdom competency.
What the fuck does that
That's just
mean?
a jumble of words.
Finally.
What?
Let that sink in for a moment.
Wisdom competency. Oh, you're not smart enough to
You
live
don't
in
have
this world.
wisdom. You just have wisdom competence.
I'm competently wise?
Increase your attribute scores
That's
on your
what
character sheet.
That's what it fucking sounds like. Like, what the fuck?
This is not how wisdom works. Wisdom isn't just reading stuff.
Wisdom is knowledge over time.
Mm-hmm.
The comprehension over time, I would say. Knowledge alone gives you more to work with, more to comprehend in the long run. But yeah, too late for that kind of chat. I missed a few chats. Simon Carlson, Mr. Wisp. That's okay. You don't know me. Could a good psychiatrist? No, I wouldn't. I would not. I would refrain from pills. But I've been told I might be a good psychotherapist, but that's usually what you get with random people on the street that have been through hell in their lives. Will make better, quote, psychotherapists, unquote, than most trained psychotherapists.
Yeah, because they actually lived fucking life.
Yeah. If you always been in your sheltered little ivory tower, where mom and dad paid for all your tuition and the pony, you won't be able to help anyone because you don't even know what a problem is.
Or if the problems get too big, you're like, ooh, that's like, oh, that's a lot. I'm not gonna fucking...
You don't need to go through you don't need to go through the exact same thing as your patients. What you need is perspective of what problems are and what pain is, because that's only what you get in the so-called school of life. There are people who are able to empathize without having gone through those things. Those are rare. Anyway, thanks for the compliment. Had I seen that before, have I read that before, I wouldn't have put it on the screen. Thank you very much.
Also, to be fair, it's hard to tell that your avatar is a girl ghost.
I wanted to do something about my voice. I can't. Sorry.
Here, look. I'll just make.
It's irrelevant.
I'll make Wisp a thing real quick, so everyone. Oh, that's way too low quality.
No, look here. Look, that's my avatar. It's totally.
Here, they'll know. They'll know.
Don't bother. Don't bother. I can't be mad
bothered.
at anyone. Okay. I couldn't do anything about my voice, so I can't be mad at anyone.
Look. It's happening.
Something is happening?
Something is happening.
Is the so-called professional seriously write that and think no one would call him out? Yes. I mean, he has people working with him. There are at least 2 professors in this country of whose names I don't know yet, but the guy, the therapist I came across, because I wouldn't know this if a therapist hadn't told me about this, who is an adamant believer in this crap, told me that he learned this at the university he was at. I don't know which that was, might be Göttingen. But he told me that there's one professor in the city I am in, who at the university here in the psychology department, who also is an adamant believer in this and totally knows a lot. So he didn't say adamant believer. He just said, "Oh, she knows a lot about this." So at least know she's a woman. I find it scary that there are therapists here already who want to put this onto patients.
Ugh.
That's very nice of you, Mike Tester. It's all about the circumstances. It's all about the context. I've been asked to join metal bands before, but I can't sing. At least I have never learned how to. But yeah.
Oh, you don't need to sing in metal bands.
Yes, you should. You know, the best metal bands, the singers have opera training.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're opera singers.
The lead singer for, the former lead singer of, God, what is this? What is the band name? Hold on.
War?
No. They did a cover of Dio's, Holy Diver.
Oh, God,
Kill Switch Engage.
Switching, okay. There are some really classic bands that I always listen to, and I'm at the point where I keep forgetting even those names.
Also,
same guy who did Motley Crue.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, and he also is an opera singer.
And the lead singer of Disturbed is classically trained in opera.
Of what?
The lead singer of Disturbed.
Disturbed? Yeah, that makes sense. System of a Down. Forgot his name.
Serge Tankian.
Yeah, Serge Tankian. With him, it's pretty obvious. Same as with the singers from Nightwish. And I don't, Simon. I don't know if Till has an opera training. But I could imagine it. I could imagine he has that kind of range. I never asked him about it. For anyone who doesn't know, Till Lindemann is the lead singer from Rammstein. Very, very cool guy. All right. Wisdom therapy. Oh God, wisdom. You just need to increase your ability scores. So where were we? Competency still. Next sentence. These include. Sorry. That's the energy drink. These include an individual's view of the world, of other people, so empathy, of oneself, reflection, and of the future. I forgot the word. The thing you also need your prefrontal cortex for. Changing one's perspective, again, empathy, and developing empathy. You just said that 2 times before, you idiot.
Yeah, right.
And you cannot acquire or develop empathy. You do not do that manually. That this is a natural process in your jump from second order to third order consciousness. A second order consciousness, which is technically a narcissist still, that's like what you are possibly into your teenage years, into your puberty. Because during puberty, so children can still act nice, but that's all learned behavior for the most part. They have some innate morality from birth that can be overwritten by parents, teachers, society. But empathy, they do not really have innately. That is something that develops over time. And usually, for the majority of people, thankfully, after puberty, most have actual empathy or should have actual empathy if they made the maturity jump into third order consciousness. In good times, in good societal times, that is over 70% of the population. In bad societal times, like we are in right now, that doesn't happen as often because the pressure necessary in order to make that jump, which usually involves some sort of pain, some sort in the form of life telling you no, which can start with your parents telling you no. If that is lacking, if the society is too Oedipal, if people don't have to struggle ever, they are not making this jump because their minds don't have to, because brains try to preserve energy all the time. So they will not the brain will not develop skills it doesn't need necessarily, at least of the higher functions, of the higher orders. From what I've seen, experienced, and read in about psychological abuse, gaslighting, and the cluster B. This is my conclusion of that. And so you cannot, you more or less get empathy automatically if you make it to third order consciousness. If you want more info on that, we can look at Mr. Robert Keegan's work. He's not a last word on the topic. He's just one of many who mapped out something similar. I can just where's the channel where I keep this the links for these things?
Wisp, I have made a monstrosity.
As I expect from you.
No, I was trying to. I don't know what the fuck. I just here.
Okay, little intermission.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is this? I mean, it's an interesting perspective.
I guess I really wanted to make the cat. The.
Who is this?
I was. Let's just say no one.
Okay. Okay, so this is not what you wanted to make?
Not really. I was trying to I'll make something so everyone knows that the Wisp has big titties, and
mine are bigger than that.
It's perspective. Obviously, it's shot for. Oh God.
Especially then.
Mm-hmm. Where the fuck?
We're gonna talk, Seda.
Am I in trouble now? Yeah.
All right. So
I guess this is what I was trying to do.
Yeah. So this is a very old work from '94. What's the Egyptian cat doing there? Seda, concentrate. This is an old graphic. There are several other works that build on this or inspired by it, and etc. Most of these kinds of works that try to sort consciousness development, they're congruent. You can put them over each other and they still match. Are you familiar with Pavlov's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
So that is a bit outdated, but you can still map it onto this stuff. And it's that the development of consciousness happens when Pavlov's hierarchy of needs is fulfilled, because then your brain has time to do the development.
Right.
And, because otherwise your brain is constantly trying to fulfill the needs in Pavlov's hierarchy of needs. So to simplify this. Like, oh, where do I get shelter? That is important. Where do I get food? Where do I get my emotional needs met? And if all of that is nice, then your brain has time. Oh, I can relax. But when you relax, that is let me lie, a quasi-meditative state, and then your brain has time to reflect. And then you can develop wisdom. You can draw wisdom from pains and struggles in life, and you will. The higher stuff comes when everything's fine, or when you have found a state of being for yourself where it feels to you like the hierarchy is met. Like a hermit doesn't need a heated house. A hermit is fine in his cave. And that's a very different lifestyle. Anyway, what we see here is on Mike Tester says, fun fact, people who are suck-ups are the type of people who will most likely betray, throw under the bus at any moment when you least expect it. Completely true. Completely true. You can develop an early detection radar to figure to see when people mean their compliments and when not. Takes some wisdom, or experience rather. That's all it is. It's pattern recognition. So as we see here, Keegan in this old work put the developmental stage or order of mind in. He sorted it a bit with first order, the impulsive mind, 2 to 6 year olds. Seen as object or the content of one's knowing is one's own reflexes. It's all the basics. And we say that narcissists, the real hard narcissistic personality disorder, are people who have emotionally not developed past 4 to 5 years old. So emotionally, they're still in first order, impulsive mind. So they're subject to their own impulses and their perceptions. The underlying structure of meaning making is a single point. That means only they exist. That's when last time I talked about solipsism. And narcissists are not consciously decided solipsist, but they act as if. That is how they operate. And with this, 4 to 5 years old, they are not just the center of the universe, they are the universe. And you are it's as if they perceive you as just part of their imagination. That's why they mistake your emotions for their own and cannot distinguish between them. And will shut you down for being angry because that is the only way they know how to deal with making the anger disappear, by making you disappear. Or which ends in emotional abuse by the narcissist. Narcissists usually tell other people to not be angry so that they are not angry. This is why a narcissistic therapist will demand that you shut down any kind of signs of frustration, anger, possible wrath, which would be the highest form of that, I would say. But even frustration and pain, they will forbid you from showing, which is the opposite of what a therapist should do. A therapist should help you find a healthy balance of all your emotions, because all your emotions need to be expressed, or should have a chance to be expressed when they are justified. That doesn't mean you need to get physically violent, but you are completely allowed to use a stern voice when you are upset.
Yeah.
Or when you are defending yourself, when you're drawing a line in the sand, that is completely justified for what is going on.
A boundary, like we were telling last time.
Yeah. So a narcissist at worst is a first order consciousness in this regard. A second order consciousness, 6-year-old through adolescence. So there is a lot of there's an actual spectrum of how far people can develop here. So what you were subject to is now what you can control, what you can control yourself, what you have power over, that is your impulses. You can control your impulses. You're not just giving in to, oh, I really want to eat now, and then you just stuff yourself. and until you barf or something. So once you can control your impulses, it is more unlikely you get an eating disorder. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, just more unlikely, because you can actually say no to an impulse of yours. And you can question your own perceptions, which is what the first order consciousness can't do. And you're subject to your needs, your interests, and your desires, which can translate into your impulses, of course. However, this is imagine teeny love in this. You are subject if you are infatuated as a teen, this is what you're subject to. You have no control over this, or very little. You're just learning to get control over this.
Over your Justin Bieber obsession?
For example.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only impulse you can control is, do you buy the new CD or not?
Yeah, that's not an impulse control. That's your parents' money.
Okay. Fair point.
That's your parents' control.
Yeah.
You
so
fucking know.
yeah. So here, your underlying structure of meaning making would be categories. You in relation to categories and other people. You can distinguish between yourself and other objects / beings. First order consciousness can hardly do that. They mimic that because they copy the behavior of other people, but they don't understand it. So, and when we talk about adults, mature people, that's a third order consciousness. That's after your puberty, post-adolescence. So that's actual adults. When people say young adults and they mean under 18-year-olds, those are not young adults. Because they are not adults. Calling them young adults is newspeak and simply a lie. It's wrong. It's making adolescents into something they're not, because they lack certain cognitive abilities. That's why this is why adolescents should not be allowed to vote, for example.
Yep.
Because they can't. This is the reason why we say you can't give consent, because you don't even have the mental faculties for it. Your prefrontal cortex is not far enough developed, and that starts around developing. Let me lie about starting with 12 years and up. Before that, you don't even have that. How are you supposed to make long-term decisions if you lack the brain faculty to even comprehend what a long-term decision is? The same goes then for this teen transitioning nonsense with hormone blockers. Like these people in this order of consciousness, they have no fucking clue what they're doing and what this means for the rest of their lives. Do you know as a teen whether you want kids or not?
Absolutely not.
That's something that people develop in their early 20s or around 25, and usually women before men. So adolescents, not adolescents. This was adolescents. Post-adolescents, so the adults, the actual adults, they have control of their needs, so they can regulate that. What do I do with this? Do I put this need on the back seat because I need to do something else right now? It's prioritization, for example. The interests and the desires. So there's a super hot girl or the super hot guy that you desire, but you're not giving into that. And which includes an impulse maybe. But desires can also mean more things. It's a wider range of things. Like also possessions. I need to actually read into this stuff. I wanted to do that for years, and this is a huge topic. So what you're subject to is interpersonal relationships, mutuality in this case. You understand, you can make meaning or understand the world across different categories, and this then goes up and up. Fourth order consciousness is not always achieved. I've seen guesstimates, I would say, where this goes into the, what was it, 3% range? No, more. There was fifth order. No, I don't remember what the percentage was I saw for this. But fifth order is so self-authoring means that you can actually write your own destiny. Begin with that. You can actively take some control over in which direction you want to develop. And fifth order, which is here, so fourth order, you do not necessarily need to achieve, or it is not set in stone that you will. And third order isn't set in stone that you will, because we have a ton of narcissists who are all stuck in first and second. That's why you have this wide range in types and abilities in people with narcissistic personality disorder, because they can be stuck anywhere between 4 and, let's say, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. I like a narcissist have abilities like it's a class.
It's more like they got stuck on level 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then they can't gain experience points anymore. They got some debuff that prevents them from gaining more XP.
Mm-hmm.
And fifth order is this really interesting one. It's very hard to achieve, usually above 40. Is at least in this chart, it says that. You can get up there very early on. If we look at authors, philosophers like Nietzsche, for example, who only got, I think, 31 years old.
Yeah.
Most of his writings were done in his early 20s, I think. And he was fourth, if not fifth order consciousness, if you write his stuff and his insights. And his life was one of pain and sickness. I would assume that is what drove him to so much comprehension, including interactions with other people. And I would like to figure out how can we push people at least from first and second order into third order. Because if we at least get 99% of people into third order consciousness, we might solve most mental health issues. Because we get rid of the people who cause mental stress and abuse en masse.
Oof.
And we get less sheeple, because narcissists are tyrannical sheeple.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So a tyrannical government or a cult has an interest in keeping people, without consciously understanding this, in first and second order consciousness. An Oedipal relationship, usually run by a narcissist, keeps the target of the Oedipal relationship narcissistic, emotionally underdeveloped. So I have another chart for this that fits in here. That's the hero's journey. Oh yeah, here's another one by from that puts Keegan's scale from 94 in contrast to a Mr. Torbert from 2004. Who is putting more, what do you say, more levels between these and gives them funny names. So there are several people who work on this, who have different approaches to development of consciousness. Not all make as much sense as others, but it's a very interesting topic. Last thing I post on this is this chart that I currently don't have a source from. Very sad. But it shows us some skills, or in this by this headline, responses in daily environments by order of consciousness. So second order can sees the following: others have own perspectives. That is the start of empathy. So a narcissist already doesn't have this. Maybe maybe a narcissist can acknowledge that others have their own perspectives, but they can't imagine them. But I would usually say a real narcissist doesn't understand this. Maybe they know the words, but they do not understand what they mean. They can't process it. They can't comprehend it. Because empathy is the ability to see the world from someone else's eyes, position, shoes. Self-interested, consequence-based, control of impulses, stable needs and habits. So these are some of these things narcissists don't have. Some they do. Consequence-based. Yeah.
Yes, someone asked a question.
Oh, Simon Carlson. Interesting things. Any good books on the subject? I am still mainly reading into the whole cluster B shit. And I have a bunch of complex PTSD books on the shelf before I want to get into this topic proper. So right now, the only reference I could give is the one I started with, that is Robert Keegan. That's all I can say right now. I have some other charts in my corridor on the wall, but I can't give you hints right now. So I can only tell you, look up Robert Keegan. Because that would be my starting point once I get into this. So anyone who's watching this, that doesn't mean I think that is the non plus ultra. Isn't. It's just a starting point. And that's the thing with psychology. There's a good basic rule of everything that's older than 10 years is probably outdated. Think Cyrex said that, or someone else? I don't remember. Or said that? I don't remember. Damn.
I didn't say that. I definitely.
Yeah. So second order needs respect, needs positive experiences, processes physical concrete properties. Oh, consequence-based is when you get repercussions, you understand, here's a line and I don't go any further unless because otherwise I get the consequences again. A first order consciousness does not have this skill, does not have this ability, is not consequence-based. That isn't that isn't there yet. So work responses. May call in sick often, tends to act impulsively, enjoys creating things, looks out for self. Community, understand the need for rules, because you can also abuse them. Choices based on immediate experiences. This goes back to consequence-based. Votes based on self-interest. This is why second-order consciousness shouldn't get the vote, because everything is just self-interest. So, and now we have to keep in mind, when we look into third-order consciousness, everything I'm going to read now, a second-order consciousness is not able to comprehend and act out. That means a narcissist cannot do any of these. So it is coordinate different needs of others. Need for approval. Okay, people have that. That kind of falls into, what was this? There was some positive feedback stuff up here. Yeah, need positive experiences. That's school learning. But here we have it in relationships. Need for approval. Mutuality. Mutuality is something they don't have. Uphold a promise. This is here categorized as an adult ability. Teenagers can do this at times. So you're not just jumping from one to the next and suddenly get all the skills unlocked. It's that you develop them one by one. So you can have some you can lack in some of these parts, but still have foraged deep into third order consciousness. But a narcissist is unable to uphold a promise unless it is convenient and beneficial. Like maybe for Machiavellian reasons. I want to keep up a relationship. I want to keep someone in the social circle. That's why I uphold the promise, but not because I would feel bad if I broke the promise, because you don't break promises as a basic rule. You need to be an adult. So according to this, you need to be an adult to be not to be able to uphold a promise, but to have the drive and need to want to uphold promises in general.
Well, yeah, I can see that. Though there are sometimes that I wish I could uphold a promise, but something else gets in the way.
That's a different thing. There you have context.
Yeah, and you still have the desire to do it.
Yeah, you have the desire to uphold it, and as you just said, you want to, but sometimes the forces of nature prevent you from it. And then you feel bad. A narcissist won't feel bad. A narcissist will just say, oh, that's behind me. Yeah, and difficulty letting go of harmful relationships. Yeah, that is still difficult in third order. So because these are, as I said, may come across as a bit confusing. It's not just abilities and skills. This is responses in daily how you respond in daily environments. So, an adult mind understands connotation and denotation. A narcissist does not do this. A narcissist will render the world in black and white, and usually for the purpose of winning an argument or ostracizing you. An adult mind is reliable, maybe loyal, and is able to make commitments. Commitments fall into upholding promises, if you think about it. Narcissists are unable to do this. Narcissists are not loyal. They're unable to be loyal. They're loyal to themselves only. Accept the given order of right and wrong, vulnerable to attitudes of others. Yeah, so you're not perfect. Just because you're third order doesn't mean you're perfect. Choose because of short-term interests. Vote based on impact to social networks. So you also think about how, if you vote, how does this affect my social circles, my close surroundings, the people I give a shit about. And if you read ahead already, you can see fourth order, which is beyond adulthood. Self is different from others. I would have hoped this would already be the case in third order consciousness. I think this is about boundary enforcement. As I said, this is something I have to read deeper into. Self-reflection is a constant in fourth order. Third order consciousness can do this, but it's not a standard reaction. You do not automatically self-reflect. Transfer knowledge, I suppose, across categories, which is why it's good to have such problems in school, because you can teach the mechanics of it, but the real comprehension of it comes later in life. But it's good to have your dry run. That's what school should be about in my wonderful magical head world.
Mm-hmm.
So work, self-initiating, self-correcting. This is, as I said, as something the previous orders, especially the narcissists, cannot do. Self-initiating is something beyond adulthood. That you start to do something, you start a project, you start to speak up. And not in the hysterical activist manner, but about actual problems. You see, so nobody's getting their asses up. So we have a project, we need to get it done. Nobody wants to take charge. But fourth order consciousness, you just say, yeah, I do that. Let's get this shit done because I want this off the table. So we're gonna work on it. And if nobody does it, then I'm gonna take charge and tell everyone what to do, because apparently you can't do this on your own. So this is this is a skill of leadership, if you will. This is much harder to do on previous levels of consciousness. And self-correction. Do you know of a self-correcting narcissist? Can you imagine one?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Simple answer, no. Because they see no fault in their actions.
Yeah. So this was a long excursion again. Sorry. And Simon, don't feel bad. Don't worry. It's just I am aware how little I know, and it's scary. Okay.
All that I know is I know nothing.
Yeah. Oh god, there's so much. There's so much nothing. The abyss is staring back at me. All right. So based on this little excursion, we can also maybe look at some of the things that Mr. Linden can or can't do. So where were we here? Oh yeah, developing empathy. Yeah, uncertainty tolerance. That's an interesting term. Uncertainty tolerance. Tolerance of uncertainty. The reduction of worry, maybe. This is something that if you have actual PTSD, so with this embitterment stuff, if that was properly defined as it would go by the name, I don't think this would be an issue. That you would be unsure of, that you would be scared of uncertainty. You would just bash forward. However, with PTSD, you are quite anxious about what you should do next, because everything could blow up in your face, and you're very, very anxious to move forward in any direction. This is because you are in this fight, flight, shock state, and you're in the shock state of it. In the shock state, you do not know what to do, because you don't want to make things worse than they already are. And high IQ people have this problem in general, because they tend to, not all of them, but they tend to be able to see several steps into the future regarding their actions. They see their position, and you imagine everything as a board game, life as a board game, and all these different paths that go in different directions, and they all can lead to fail states, and the goal is somewhere there at the horizon. And you stand there, and you're scared to move forward because you see all these fail states that this labyrinth goes into. What people with that problem need to understand is simply, well, when I move forward in any direction, that means I do something, then you will experience something, probably something new. You may learn a new ability, a new skill, a new understanding, and this will then rearrange the whole game board. It will change connections. It will open up new paths, and most importantly, it will remove some of the fail states, because now you have the ability to overcome that fail state, and it will just become an obstacle, and other obstacles will be completely removed. While with the new understanding, you will see other paths turn into fail states, because with your gained knowledge, you will understand, oh, this path would have been a trap. Good, I didn't move that way. So just moving forward without too much worry about where you'll go. So still be cautious, but don't be paralyzed by your caution. And you will get somewhere, because the people who do not think too much about that, they just move forward and they get to places.
You good, Cedar?
What? Did I get off topic too much?
No.
No.
I just heard heavy breathing from Cedar.
I'm so sorry. My hand was pressed against my nose, right towards the mic. That is that is no other thing than I have just covered half of my nose. Okay.
Next thing, a long-term perspective. So a long-term perspective, that is as I just talked about, a third and fourth order consciousness ability that you naturally have if you if your prefrontal cortex is not just developed, but also switched on. A narcissist is not necessarily able to have long-term perspectives. Depends. There are more competent ones, but this is I don't know how this is supposed to help people with post-trauma. Because if we remove the embitterment or the stress, so the E or the S in the PT asterisk D, we still end up with post-trauma. A post-trauma something disorder. We know how to get rid of trauma, and it is not with this nonsense. And now my favorite, and forgiveness. And that's where I think we get the really dangerous part. Post-trauma, people did bad shit to you. You need to learn forgiveness. And this is what I mean with people like Linden. They don't mean acceptance, but in the sense of accept that the things happened, that they are real, but that you condone them. And then expose yourself to the bad people again. Because they will do it again, because they didn't get any repercussions. They didn't got told no. They did not have to deal with enforced borders by you. And this is what they tell the sexually abused kids at the Jehovah's Witnesses. Forgive your abusers. And now come, sit in the Bible study group with your abuser.
Mm-hmm.
You did make up, right? As patients with PTED attribute the problem to outer events, but do not perceive the role of their emotional reaction.
What? Don't perceive their outward emotional reaction?
No, the PTED patients attribute the problem, so what caused the post-trauma, to outer events. Attribute the problem to outer events. So what happened, done by others, or just the force of nature, like normal trauma. You can also have that from a natural catastrophe, like a big flood. Because that will also force you to reorganize your biography, because the house was swept away by the flood, including the mountain it stood on, as happened with the last big flood in Germany. You're just bitter that your house was washed away from the mountain. Your life is just different now. Just accept it. I mean, yeah, you have to deal with the fact, but there's no one to blame for that because, well, bloody flood.
Blood.
Yeah, but that you're upset about it, as you just bitter.
They called me bitter for having lost both my cats within like 3 months. Oh, you're just bitter.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a bitter bitch. I no.
Oh, that's very justified grief.
Yeah. Especially anyway. No, never mind.
Oh, if you want to tell stories, tell stories. It's up to you.
No, I'm just going to say that especially when you turn it on yourself because it was you who left the screen door open and now your precious baby is gone. After having a kind of traumatic death for my first cat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't, maybe I would call it, maybe I just processed it well because I was able to. But, coming home from a vacation and he was lying in his own piss.
Oh, no.
Couldn't move his legs and then having to watch him pass away while you're putting him down. That's kind of fucked up,
Yeah.
To because you do. It literally is the light leaves their eyes.
Right. At least you were there with him.
Yes. He was old. And Mike tested it. I'm sorry. Pardon my language, what the hell is that bullshit to forgive abuser nonsense gonna do? like test
this is what is actual gaslighting. And this is what gaslighters do, what they want of you, and what they're flying monkeys, the people they're brainwashed to also gaslight you, to forgive the abuser. Because you're just being dramatic, you're just exaggerating, or you're making it up. You just should forgive that person for doing the things. Or just our previous examples of I believe that he did rape you, but don't you want to come back to our friend circles? You always had so much fun. Yeah. But this is what narcissists build cults of personality. Many religious cults operate like that, and they will force you to forgive your abusers, to forgive the abuse, to forgive the crime that was done to you, the violation of basic rights, of, well, if you want to say human rights, so that they can just keep on going and that they do not lose face, and that there just won't be any trouble, because you just make trouble. If you bring up the truth, if you want to bring out the truth, that for the abuser and for everyone who is leans into the direction of avoidant personality disorder at worst, will want you to just shut up, let it lie, and maybe if you don't want to forgive your abuser, just go away.
Bingo.
And at worst, they'll drive you to suicide.
Yeah.
So this is that he has this in here. If you
Sinister.
Yes. It would be less bad maybe if he would acknowledge that what he is talking about with PTED patients are narcissists, because they feel narcissistically injured from you saying no to them. That's why I said narcissists would be the believable versions of people that are could be delusional querulants or borderliners. Like, can the borderliner please forgive me that that the borderliner dreamed that I did something bad to the borderliner in a dream? Because the borderliner will go on a revenge spree because of what the borderliner dreamed I did in a dream. So that's maybe where all the stuff he's talking about would be helpful. But then, borderline specifically, we have something called dialectical behavioral therapy. Dialectic behavioral therapy, not just cognitive behavioral therapy, which is specifically designed for borderliners, where they learn basic abilities of logic, because they haven't done that themselves. Where they are taught to question, are the feelings, the emotions I have, actually valid in the context of what truly happened? Which is the exact opposite of what social justice warriors tell people, that their emotional reactions are always valid. No, that's the opposite of therapy for borderliners. And a lot of social justice is filled up with borderliners who never got therapy. So that's why everything he talks about here is skills that narcissists are lacking. All of this, this whole sentence. This is stuff that narcissists are lacking, but you cannot teach empathy. It's something you have to develop yourself. It's nothing you can force develop. There is no known therapy for narcissists. Sam Vaknin is experimenting with some things, but that's in the earliest stages at all. I can give my thoughts on that, but it's another topic. So and I think we'll get into that in a way. So as patients with PTSD, according to him, patients with PTSD attribute the problem to outer events, so to everyone but themselves, which would be a narcissistic reaction, but do not perceive the role of their emotional reaction. This includes this too would be a narcissistic reaction that he's describing. But he's also blaming the victim. That it's the problem that happened, the thing that caused your trauma. Have you thought about how your reaction to the abuse made the event happen? Like there's a chronological logic error here. Like, how is my reaction causing the traumatic situation that caused my reaction?
That is really ass backwards.
Yeah, and you will have this with the apologists, with the gaslighting abusers, and the gaslighting flying monkeys, that they do not care for chronology. They do not care about linear time. They will swap things around in order to make everything your fault. I've had that in my story that happened at least twice. And that's where you really start to question your own sanity, because how can people say that to you? Allegedly intelligent people. So he goes on, as a role of emotional reaction. The treatment uses case vignettes of unsolvable problems with a victim. That means you get problem examples. A perpetrator and a third person who is benefiting. This already sounds very like a very Machiavellian situation. Like you have a perpetrator and an opportunist, maybe, or well, anyone who's benefiting. Usually, the perpetrator benefits from the abuse. So the treatment uses case vignettes of unsolvable problems with a victim, a perpetrator, and a third person who's benefiting. What does this have to do with the other things? The goal is to overcome embitterment by reframing the negative life event, like your rape, and induce a new perspective and reorientation to the future. That's it. That's how he wants to treat this. So it sounds to me like he wants the possibly traumatized person, maybe complex traumatized person, maybe raped person, maybe raped child, to imagine a perpetrator and a third person who is benefiting, which, by the way, already sounds like what happens in these cults. So maybe he's talking from experience. And you're supposed to induce a new perspective, like how is the third? What's it like for the perpetrator? How does the perpetrator see the situation? How does your rapist see your rape? Well, have you ever thought about that? Maybe your rapist doesn't even see a problem with it, so he wasn't even hurt. So, yeah, what the fuck do I care? Seriously. And the third person who's benefiting from that happening, like maybe someone who's running a camera or something. Am I supposed to be fine with that? He's even he's using the term victim. So that means if he uses the term victim, we can assume that he means a legitimate, an objective victim, because that's when he says case vignettes of unsolvable problems. A victim and a perpetrator. So we do have damages, and we have someone who caused them, probably deliberately, with malice, and someone who benefits from all this happening, which is even worse. And you, the victim, the legitimate victim, you are supposed to think about a new perspective in this and reorient yourself to the future. How is that supposed to work? Am I misreading this? Well, what are you taking from this?
Just about the same. Like, apologize to your perpetrator. Mike Testa has something to say.
I mean, this whole thing, this paper tells me nothing of substance.
I don't know what the fuck it's talking about. Like, what? You have to... Forgiveness, patience, filled with... Okay.
Mike, that is a completely normal, justified, and I would even say healthy reaction. If you didn't react like that, something would be wrong with you. You got through so much psychological abuse that you wouldn't even know how to defend yourself anymore. Because this, you say you'd get violent in such a situation. That's you enforcing your boundaries. Because how dare someone tell me to forgive my abusers? Usually the people who tell you that, they don't even know what happened. And they take presumption of innocence of the person they don't even know or don't know what happened, and they assume you are just making a fuss. Because they're harmony addicts. So your abuser gets presumption of innocence, but you do not. That you tell the truth is out of the question for people. That means you, the victim, you do not get presumption of innocence. So we couldn't even ever move to a point of trying to resolve something or figure out the truth, because you already denied even being heard. It does not, this is important. This does not mean that the opposite is listen and believe. That's just the other side of extreme bullshit. Listen and believe, as well as denying the victim could tell the truth, both are wrong. We need to listen and then evaluate the situation, because that is how we uncover truth. A third party may not know what is true. Someone with experience can pick up on the patterns, but the general person, especially if they're emotionally immature, they will just tell the person that was hurt to just shut up in some way. And this is one way of doing that. This is gaslighting. And the other extreme we see with the SJWs, where it's one side is always the victim and one side is always the perpetrator. Like one sex is always the victim, one race is always the victim, and one sex and one race is always the perpetrator. No matter what is a skewed version of all of this. So they're not interested in uncovering the truth either, because they are also emotionally immature and they resort to cult think. So, what do you think of his short introduction to treatment of embitterment?
He's got to screw loose.
Okay.
Okay.
So a thought just popped in my head. He wants to treat this with behavioral therapy, or is that just a fancy way of saying re-education?
I would say in his case, yes.
I think that's what he means.
Yeah, because when he talks about forgiveness and all this perspective stuff and look at it from the perspective of your abuser and stuff like that, it sounds like brainwashing. It sounds like outright cultish brainwashing and the exact abuse that creates complex PTSD.
Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like. It's just sinister.
Mm-hmm. And Simon has nailed it quite well, I'd say. You have to put yourself in the head of a madman to understand him and his scientific paper. Yeah, and we actually can do that, but he can't put himself into the shoes of of sane people.
You know what's funny? They're like the people that constantly get denigrated for their views on things are able to put themselves into the shoes of the opposition.
Yeah. It means
But
they have
the
empathy.
opposition, that is supposed to have empathy aren't able to do that.
Yeah.
Not even aren't able to do that. They're physically diametrically opposed to doing it.
Yeah.
It's like
They will call you insane for suggesting it.
Yeah. They're like, I love the things like, oh, we won't put ourselves in other shoes. We don't want to put it in the people who want to murder babies, but us, we just want, we want people to live happily. And, completely use that. That is the only way they can sympathize with the other side is the horrific demon straw man. And then the pussy bitch, you don't really even believe that view of their side.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we're the side that doesn't want genocide. The other side is the one that does. And, of course, they use that against centrists.
And the centrists just are like, they make more sense. Like, if you are a centrist now, you're pretty much all right in the eyes of the crazy people.
If you are center left, you are alt-right.
Yep.
That's how far communist we went in public discourse at this point.
The Overton windows.
And none of that is liberal. It's all authoritarian. It's wonderful.
Oh, I saw some stupid shit today.
Oh yeah?
Did you know that Hitler and Stalin were capitalists? They're two sides
not
of the
according
same
to the
coin,
writings.
apparently. Somebody actually put that up as like.
Oh, they're trying to put both into the right wing after all.
Yeah.
Wait, Stalin is now right wing?
Yeah, they're trying to put him there. They're also trying to put Mao into the right wing now.
Bro, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, because they have to try communism again, and therefore every failed communism before has to be right wing.
Do you want to
right?
Do you want to know the reason?
No, I'm going to say this. Hold on. I'll say this real quick. You can't even be right of Marxist anymore. Marxist is now rightist. That's how fucking far we've gone.
Oh, I don't think they would ever say that. Because
Sorry.
they never bring up Marx and Engels' racism and anti-Semitism and homophobia. They never bring that up. And they will also never bring up Engels' pedophilia.
Or Stalin's.
Stalin was a pedo too?
No. He was a racist and he didn't like the gays.
The gays.
Well, and he didn't like the Jews either.
Yeah,
he had his own extermination program.
Okay,
but they scrapped after his death. They scrapped it solely for the reason that it was too expensive.
I think it's a little easier when talking about history if we clarify when people don't hate the Jews. At that point, I think it's safe to say that it is more notable to prove when it's wrong.
There may have been 1 second that somebody didn't hate a Jew.
Oh dear. All right.
But no, okay. So I interrupted you earlier, real quick before we move on. Is why is Stalin now right? Because
the economy wasn't controlled democratically, and communism is a stateless government.
But it never gets there. It always ends at that super fascist point that is the peak of socialism. All socialism leads to fascism. End of story. There is no democracy in socialism. There is maybe a mock party that you can vote for, and only that.
Yep.
Great democracy you have there, but better not vote wrong.
I saw that dumb shit today, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Stalin's right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's getting really insane. So, do we want to visit some wonderful place that Mr. Linden talked about?
Is it that website?
Yes.
Oh, that website.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Of course it is.
I guess. Oh,
Welcome to the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute.
It's the Wisdom Therapy. Damn.
Trademarked.
Institute.
You have to say trademarked.
Oh, the Wisdom Therapy. Damn. Institute.
Trademarked. It's here. Look.
That's what she's doing. She's saying it.
Oh, she is.
She's saying TM.
Oh, I always hear damn.
Same difference.
Yeah, it's trademarked. Wisdom therapy it's trademarked. I think I somewhere stumbled upon the patent for it too.
God.
Here's a Google search.
Simon. Look at his comment.
TM.
I love how it's tiny as well. TM.
And the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute is, of course, in Palo Alto, California.
Oh my God.
Of course it's in California. What did you think?
I thought it would be in Germany. My bad.
Yeah, I thought so too. But no, it's there.
It's in California. Another reason to fucking.
I mean, we already saw in the references that his most of the papers he's referencing are either his own or from social justice research. I think, no, that's not it. Crowd wisdom in video, like, Oh, I'll find it again. I'm sure I'll find it again. Capturing crowd wisdom in investigation plans. 2020.
There we go.
Oh, this looks different.
Is that a floor plan?
No, this must be something completely different.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't realize that there were mechanical schematics to fixing your brain.
Yeah, this is something else. This is something else. So, I will find it again. No worries. I will find it again. But for now, Wisdom Therapy Institute, Trademarked Institute.
Hold on, Wisp.
Yes?
Remove Simon. There we go. Look at my name now.
Wait, can I?
If you're using Windows, Cedar did it too.
Yeah. Edit name.
I'm keeping this now.
Great. So, the Wisdom Therapy Institute. And I tried before. I cannot not read this in a non-mocking voice. The Wisdom Therapy Institute offers the Bay Area community a model of psychotherapy that integrates the best practices of Western psychological science and Eastern traditions. Oh, we'll get into that. The Wisdom Therapy Institute, founded by Shani Robbins, PhD, houses both a psychotherapy practice and a corporate consultancy group. For the past decade.
A corporate consultancy.
So it's copyright 2008. So this thing's been around since 98, allegedly. I think what I looked up was 99. For the past decade, Wisdom Therapy has been empirically shown to be a practical and effective method for significantly reducing anger. Is it? You see that bad thing there? Anger? Bad emotion. Don't have anger.
But the paper literally said that there is no empirical evidence.
No, that was for hedonism.
Yeah.
That was for hedonism. The paper says wisdom therapy good, and the hedonism didn't work.
Okay.
So, method for significantly reducing anger, anxiety, depression. Just accept that everything's shit, man. Phobias. What the fuck? You deal with phobias by exposure. Whatever. And increasing well-being, mindfulness, humility. I have a very specific understanding of that term. Health and enhanced communication. So this will just bring us there. The short version is humility includes an appreciation that our perception and thoughts about others, ourselves, events, and the world are subjective and tentative. That's not humility. That's subjectivism. I understand humility in a very different way. But we'll get to that. Unless you want to say something already.
I'm going to wait.
Set us off for now.
I'm going to wait.
Okay. Health and enhanced communication. Wisdom therapy increases your health. It's basically a panacea.
Is this like BetterHelp.com?
I don't know. I've never visited BetterHelp.
It was a scam.
Oh, what a surprise. So essentially snake oil.
Yep.
But you make your own conclusions, please. Don't just take my word for it. At the Institute, licensed therapists, interns, and trainees are matched to individuals, couples, and families based upon the needs and preferences of the clients. We run multiple support groups, workshops, and classes. The Institute includes a teaching and research facility that offers a wide range of clinical services on a sliding scale based on income and need. We help our clients develop awareness of their thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and body, and the skills to enhance those and reduce stress, pain, and suffering. Sounds a bit new agey to me. Become aware of your thoughts. What? How underdeveloped are you? Organizational and corporate applications of wisdom therapy, trademarked, you forgot your TM here, have demonstrated significant decreases in work-related stress and conflicts, and increases in satisfaction, productivity, and long-term loyalty to one's work group and company. It increases loyalty? That sounds like a red flag, if you ask me. Since we already talked about this cultish stuff. The Institute offers conflict resolution, stress reduction, anger management, emotional intelligence. This term should be an absolute red flag to everyone who seriously looks into psychology. Emotional intelligence is a bullshit term that was invented for soccer moms who could not deal with the fact that they were of average or below average intelligence, as well as their children, and can then tell themselves, oh, but I have emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not the same as emotional maturity. A Machiavellian narcissist or psychopath can have what you could describe as high emotional intelligence, like understanding how to manipulate other people. That doesn't mean they have emotional maturity, which would include empathy. which is the relevant part. And technically, emotional intelligence is already covered by the wide range of IQ. And a high IQ does not mean that you have emotional maturity. So it's important that these are completely different things. And mindfulness meditation services. We'll get into mindfulness meditation. And if I ever end up on a stage with Sam Harris, I will rip him at least 2 new holes because of his mindfulness meditation bullshit. But later. The Institute also serves the legal community by conducting the psychological testing and assessment for several county courts. Oh, God. So these PTED people make psychological testing and assessment for courts, where they can then tell that the court that this complainant is just a querulent, it's just a delusional querulent. Cool. Wisdom therapy integrates cognitive behavioral therapy with mindfulness meditation. As I said, we'll talk about meditation. And the conscious cultivation of humility, which to me, even in the short thing, to me rather reads like subject yourself to the opinions and wills of others. Just accept that your abuser has a different view of the situation as you do. It facilitates the wisdom and skills we might otherwise obtain in later life, but can use now. So these people claim that wisdom therapy gives you a development boost, when in reality, what is described as lacking by Linden and by these people here at the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute are the very skills that narcissists lack. So this is nothing of this is something that you, learn later in life. No, it's something you should have at the end of your adolescence.
Which a lot of people are lacking these days because more and more people are starting to add like children.
Yes, because that's what I talked about before. We live in an ever more Oedipal culture that I can't find the right word, that gives the soil the lab conditions to prolong a narcissistic phase in life. And social media makes that worse. It's an amplifier of that. You have this every few generations, like the post-war children. They were the boomers, the actual baby boomers, not what they mistakenly called boomers in the memes nowadays, but the actual baby boomers born usually in the 50s and later. Many of them had an Oedipal upbringing, so they were stuck in their narcissistic phases until much later in life, and until their adulthood and old age.
Usually whenever they started having kids.
Well, it's because the war generation, the parents that went through the war, were overprotective of their children due to the war trauma. And this is how generational trauma actually works, in part. Not this nonsense that the SJWs are going on about. You wanted to say?
One example I can give is my grandmother. She's a baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking to her more and learning more about her upbringing and everything. And how she is now is much different from how she used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And she got into situations that I would never have seen my grandmother getting into. So I can see how they like I have an example of how baby boomers actually matured into who they are now.
Yeah, so it can happen. It's just rare that anyone develops out of a narcissistic state later in life. Like my grandmother, her views changed even in her 50s and 60s. So that's all right. So she got a broader understanding of people. For example, she had a very low opinion of black people, but there were no black people in Germany and in East Germany and anywhere. And she was a refugee from what later became Poland. However, so it was for her. It was more like what she saw from documentaries of people of savage people, and the general aesthetic didn't. Well, she didn't like it. Simply said, and then the Cosby Show came to TV, localized with a German dub, and she really enjoyed the Cosby Show. And that made her rescind her what's it? Not revulsion. What's her disgust reaction, which is a normal thing of xenophobia. It's a normal thing.
Yeah.
Normal reaction. Like, this is different from what I'm used to. So my first reaction is disgust. This is a self-protection reflex. And when you see positive examples of the thing you are disgusted by, that it's not actually that bad, your view can change. That can be about a foreign food that you, or as a kid, a food that you haven't seen yet, that you haven't eaten yet, and it's on the table, and it's another one of these vegetables, and I don't want to try that. All vegetables I had tasted horrible. But then you're forced to try it, for example, and so, oh, this one's actually good.
Like I used to have an aversion to calamari, and then I actually got to have real calamari whenever I was in Hong Kong, and it was really good.
Yeah, completely different the way they make it there, I guess.
Yes.
Oh, have you ever had a real fresh banana?
Yes, I have. And
they're so sweet.
They have so much of a different texture and taste than what we get from the stores.
Yeah, because what we get in the stores, they're
is a hybrid.
cut off. Yeah, and they're cut off when they're still far from ripe. So that we get them green into the stores, and these things could never get ripe properly. They could never get the nutrients they needed for that. So they do get yellow and they do get quasi-ripe, but they are far from what they would be if they had stayed on the banana tree.
A
problem is if they had stayed on there, they wouldn't last long enough to be shipped anywhere.
A plantain is similar to a actual ripe banana.
A what?
Plantain. It's mostly used in Mexican food dishes.
Okay. Cooking banana.
Mm-hmm. It is the very end one that you see there.
Which of these do you mean?
No. On the picture that you have pulled up, the very end one on the right, that's a plantain. That's a fully ripe banana.
Yeah, that's when they're sweet like honey.
Mm-hmm.
Just short of going bad.
Yep. And those are what are used for cooking in Mexican food.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
And they are delicious. Here's a banana.
Thank you. All right. So the understanding, so the mindfulness meditation, I will go into what bullshit that is. And well, we will talk about humility. So they want to teach us, and they probably have clients in their 20s and 30s, things that these people should have acquired in their teens, or at least early 20s at the latest. And I think you only obtain that later in life. Bullshit. Empathy, compassion, and acting in the client's best interests form the core of our therapeutic and consulting approach, as well as the education of our interns and trainees. The main office of the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute is located in Palo Alto, California. We serve clients across the United States and throughout the world. Who? Staff bios. Who's working here? This is Mr. Shani Robbins. You have your fun. Wisdom Therapy Trademarked. It's published workshops, invited talks, presentations. Yeah, I can imagine that he maybe means well. He's a member of the APA. Yeah, good for you, I guess. He's won many honors and awards. Ugh.
Oh boy.
He watches sunrises. How nice. All right. I don't think I ever looked on the corporate site. Wisdom therapy has been applied in Fortune 500 companies such as Yahoo and Cadence Design Systems, with remarkable results such as increases in emotional intelligence, productivity, workgroup cooperation, leadership, and company loyalty, and decreases in anger, anxiety, stress, and conflict. If you just tell people to just sweep everything under the rug, in the long term, the things will blow up, but hey, you're then just a toxic element that we can get rid of, right? You're just a delusional querulant. Our consulting takes a systems approach towards facilitating skills and addressing the stressors and conflicts that emerge on the individual, workgroup, and company-wide levels. Our consulting ranges from emotional intelligence trainings. I wonder how those work. I seriously wonder how those work. And conflict resolution to stress management and mindfulness meditation, skills to executive coaching and wisdom in leadership. We also work with EAP to provide needed services. Okay. Have fun. 500 companies, so the top 500. The effectiveness of wisdom therapy has been empirically established through many outcome studies, conference presentations, and invited talks. What? This is not a sentence. Okay. Founded the Institute. Do you want to get over this whole thing here? Oh man, that's a lot of references.
Yeah, that is quite a few references.
Okay, bitterness is never mentioned here.
Really?
No, at least not on this side. What about our Lord and Saviour? Oh, Mr. Linden is also not mentioned on the academic page.
It looks like it's all Robin S.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all Robin.
It's all Shani.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so this is just talks he gave, I suppose.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah. Yep.
So I wonder if maybe this developed independently from Michael Linden, and he just found this to be fitting to what he wants to do. I'm getting overwhelmed with grief. I need to step away from to recenter. Oh no. I know what you mean. I'm sorry. My bad. I mistook the other thing for the comments.
I am talking to Mike in the comments.
Okay,
So-
I'm sorry. So let's get into the interesting stuff.
Mhm.
Oh no, we get into resources later, like quotes and songs.
What is this?
What do you mean?
No, I'm looking at cognitive. Oh, it's this thing. Yeah. Oh boy.
No, what is wisdom therapy? So it consists of 4 elements. That is CBT, emotional intelligence, which is bollocks, mindfulness meditation, which is bollocks, and humility, which they completely screwed up. Should we wait for Stella, or maybe she still needs a bit? I can refill my glass at least. Okay. So what is wisdom therapy? Wisdom therapy is a comprehensive, practical, scientifically established approach that can help you address the life challenges and conflicts you're facing. Just as a reminder, Mr. Linden suggests this wisdom therapy, trademarked, as a solution to the thing that he mistakes with post-traumatic stress disorder, and especially complex post-traumatic stress disorder, especially severe types. So always keep that in mind. That's the life challenges and conflicts he's talking about, like rape and cult abuse, etc. Like the complete destruction of a human being, because that can still not be life-threatening, but it has the intent to destroy you so that you kill yourself. That's usually what psychological abuse is about, even if that is not conscious to the perpetrator, but it's the intent to destroy you entirely. Back going to pull upstream, so I am not behind. What? Okay, Sarek also needs a break. No, Simon, it's not vodka, it's an energy drink. If I start drinking with this, we're never gonna get through it. Oh dear. But I might need some. I have an appointment tomorrow, so not today. Not today. Maybe if tomorrow goes well. I still have some finished vodka in the fridge. It's just right when it's... Yes, Cyril, I know you're in the bathroom. So everyone just take a minute. What? Oh, EP is sending me news.
I'm back.
Okay. Hello. Welcome back. All right. So keep in mind, as I just said, Mr. Linden suggests this kind of therapy for people who I'd say deliberately mistakes, misdiagnoses with his stuff that have severe trauma. And he just puts it down to, it's just life challenges and conflicts. Flying Monkeys will also tell you that, the problems you have with your abuser, those are just differences of opinion. I've been told that, for example, and Says you and I asked back. First off, I told what the fuck happened, and they're adamant about this formulation. And then I ask, so what is the difference of opinion? And I can easily reframe that. Like, what if a mugger steals your wallet? Is that also just a difference of opinion?
No.
Of who should have the wallet? Because we have a difference of opinion about the whole wallet stealing thing. The mugger thinks it's all right. And he probably needs the money more than you do. So otherwise he wouldn't steal it, right? So you should just give it because he needs it. Welcome to communism. And that is really the logic. Especially with the chairs, we got a few live examples of this where someone's phone and charger were stolen. We have this with people whose bikes got stolen, and they were told like, "Oh well, you could try to see it from the perspective of the one who took your bike. That person may just need it more right now, and that person will now be really happy. So you should be happy for that person who took your bike."
No.
That's really stuff they wrote and they meant. That is the insanity that's going on there. And this is where stuff like this is going to lead to. So the wisdom that typically develops late in life is very useful for meeting those challenges. Wisdom therapy helps you develop some of that wisdom now instead of 20 or 30 years from now. And as I said, the stuff you should have in good times, you develop that in your teens, at the latest in your 20s. If you develop it later than that, something is you missed some memos from life. Wisdom therapy, the wisdom, probably trademarked, we gain throughout our life includes communication and social skills, humility, empathy, and compassion for others. Yeah, those are things you do. Compassion for others, you don't simply develop. That's what I mean. When you lack that, and don't develop it 20, 30 years from now. That means you don't have it now as an adult. You are a narcissist. This is not a skill you can learn through reading, for fuck's sake. This is such a misunderstanding of psychology, of basic psychology. Emotional intelligence, bullshit. Specific thought patterns. So learn specific thought patterns. Yay. Mindfulness, a practice of appreciation and gratitude for the things we take for granted, like being able to walk or see, and a sense of awe, respect, and perspective for the big picture and nature. Skills in all of these areas can be gained through several months. There's a space there, of practice. Wisdom therapy aims to provide that practice. So keep in mind, this stuff that is essentially stuff that narcissists lack, and that you cannot teach them. You cannot teach a narcissist to have empathy. It doesn't work. Narcissist has to develop, and there are other things that trigger that. Narcissist needs a hard epiphany. Keep in mind that this is supposed to work for someone who's been raped and severely mentally abused, got a life destroyed deliberately through malice, was made completely helpless, gaslit for months, if not years. And this is gonna help you. Be glad that you can see and walk. What the fuck, man? Have some awe for nature. That's not gonna help you with your fucking post-trauma. Among the key components of wisdom therapy, trademarked, are cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness meditation, and the active cultivation of humility. Decades of research has shown that each of these alone has remarkable benefits for relieving suffering and conflict. Notice that there's never a mention of trauma here. Together, they will provide you with an extraordinary set of tools that will not only prove effective for relief, but will also increase your enjoyment for everyday activities, your productivity, and your overall well-being and health. In short, this stuff overall is basically just telling people who are already fine, if it's giving them a few good tools and a lot of bullshit, that some of which can be detrimental, that they haven't thought about yet, and that can help them navigate life. Okay. But none of this is going to help anyone for real. Not with post-traumatic disorders of any kind. For example, for borderliners, we have dialectical behavioral therapy. I already mentioned that. If anyone's interested, we can look at that later. What this uses under cognitive behavioral therapy is a bit of a skewed and warped version of that, or a light version of that, if you will. We'll get to that. Each one of us has unique strengths and goals accompanied with varying degrees of suffering and conflicts like anger, fear, anxiety, stress, and depression in relationships and with work. So, according to these people, varying degrees of suffering. Anger is a conflict. Fear is a conflict. Anxiety is a conflict. Stress is a conflict. Depression in a relationship is a conflict. Oh, this is then this end with work. So first off, you don't make a comma there. Or the sentence structure is just nonsense. Maybe the comma is supposed to be after conflicts, and the sentence would make a little bit more sense. But yeah, so this is all relatively light stuff that he's talking about here. As difficult and overwhelming as your challenges may seem, it is useful for you to be aware of the fact that millions before us have faced similar forms of suffering and conflicts and successfully resolved them. So just when you're dealing with seeking justice for your rape, just think of that. Millions of people before you have been raped, and they're still alive. So don't worry, it's okay. It's completely normal. But I'm trying to put this into the nonsense context of Michael Linden. And difficult and overwhelming challenges like cult abuse. That is not easy to get out of. Most people don't make it.
No, they don't. There was a series that I used to watch that showed just how easy it is for people to get wrapped up into a cult and other things that society brings about. And it's usually the downtrodden and the ones that feel like they have no worth that are the easiest to get into a cult.
Yeah, the vulnerable. And that's why religions prey on the vulnerable, and socialism preys on the vulnerable. That's why they always go for the immigrants and the rainbow people and the disabled, and they always want to speak for them and say, "Oh, we are there for you. Join us," but always have the right opinion, because that's the next phase in cult indoctrination. You have to do what the cult says. It's the same way that anonymous alcoholics works. It just replaces your need for the alcohol with a need for God.
Yeah, but they go for immigrants that don't know what socialism and communism are, because the ones that
Mhm.
live in those countries, they know they're never going to get them
Mm-hmm.
unless they're the ones that want the power.
Yeah.
But hey, what do I know? I never grew up under it, but I have my grandmother who grew up in East Germany
Oh
that
dear.
told me
Oh,
everything.
you know in which state she was?
I do not. All I remember is she was in East Germany and then somehow got into Vilsec.
Into what?
Vilsec?
Vilsec?
Yeah, Vilsec.
Can you type that?
Vilseck.
CK Vils.
Northeastern Bavaria.
Ah, that's some constituency. Oberpfalz. So she fled across the border?
Well, that was in East Germany at the time.
No. Northeastern Bavaria? I am not aware of the German states changing their respective borders. And
Which parts of Germany were East German? Because I know Berlin was, or no. Berlin separated it, and
but Berlin is cut in half in the middle of. That's why we had the so-called Luftbrücke, the air bridge, which was American planes dropping food by parachute over West Germany, over West Berlin, because there were no supply lines at the time. So this is pretty deep in Bavaria.
near
this is
Czechia
next to
border.
Yeah, next to Czechia. So north of here we have Saxony on the left. That is this map sadly doesn't have good state borders.
She was east of Nuremberg.
East of.
That's where Vilsec
Yeah, that's where Vilsec is. That's where Vilsec is. That's here on the map. And here on the right. So wait, this is Saxony, the thing with Dresden. Then we have I can't see the bloody borders. Here Erfurt is this is Thüringen. And up here is Sachsen-Anhalt. This is Saxony-Anhalt. And Lower Saxony is on the left to that. That is West Germany. So Magdeburg is East Germany. State in East Germany, Sachsen-Anhalt. You have Leipzig. That is Saxony. And up here you have Brandenburg. It's the state I come from. And Berlin in the middle. And then you have up here Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, the thing at the coast to the East Sea. That was also East Germany. We can just look at a map.
I found one. But all I've gotten from her is she lived in Vilsec whenever she met my grandfather.
All right, so.
Because he was stationed at the military base there.
Oh, okay. Well, I hate this. Come on. Just give me the bloody picture. So you see, life satisfaction between 2012 and 2016. And here you see the nice east and west gaps that still exist to this day between East and West Germany. So all you see in the yellowish and the light green down here, Thüringen and Sachsen, that's East Germany. And the yellow is East Germany. Those are the East German states. Everything else is West Germany. And your grandmother fled about here.
Yeah.
So
Because
from Thüringen or from Sachsen.
She's told me some very, very horrific stories about whenever she was a 3-year-old during the war.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
If you can, ask her how she got there.
I will.
It's usually the stories and I don't know, keep it written down somewhere. Because the stories of how and why people fled the border, fled the country, fled East Germany, they're absolutely amazing tales. And it was on the same level of danger as well, today you could say it's less likely you make it out of North Korea, but it's on the same level of danger because the guards at the border were supposed to shoot anyone fleeing East Germany. And there were people digging tunnels, and there were people building hot air balloons from scraps of clothes, and set them up at night, far away from the border to not be noticed, and then at night try to fly across, knowing what the weather is, how the wind would go, and then fly across at night above the border to land somewhere, wherever in West Germany. Some of those balloons came back down in East Germany, but some made it across. And I think there was even one that landed on the border. That was a very sad story. But yeah, tales of adventure and strife. And the socialists tried to tell us that, oh, this wasn't so bad. It was so fucking bad. People built hot air balloons at night or dug tunnels to flee this fucking horror prison. But yeah, another story. And as I kept saying, Mr. Linden, his PTED would in East Germany would have been used by the Stasi, by the state, to just render you a delusional querulant. There's nothing. The system didn't hurt you. The Stasi didn't hurt you. You're just complaining. You're just bitter. Go away. Just accept. Just forgive. Forgive the Stasi. That's why this upsets me so much. Yes, the Institute. So we have to read all this stuff in this context of Mr. Linden. And this sentence made me so angry because with Mr. Linden, he's talking with this in the context of things like rape and cult abuse. Because he's already playing down cult abuse because, the complete destruction of the complete psychological destruction of you, well, it wasn't life-threatening, was it? So it's not PTSD in his eyes or complex PTSD. It's just embitterment. Because in his eyes, it wasn't life-threatening. Oh, Simon, you're from Ukraine. Now, if you have communist symbols here, you will end up in prison. Yeah,
it's a little bit extreme.
So I can completely understand. This is the ideology that just brought strife and death, mass death upon us in every country it ever went into power. And in Poland, both Nazi symbols and communist symbols are forbidden. Only in Germany, it's only Nazi symbols. Communist symbols, completely fine. Even though we had the tyranny of East Germany, the despotism, the corruption, the mass psychological abuse of a people. And this is why I think the reunification failed, because this shit was never put on the same level of atrocity as Nazism.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and then people like Mr. Michael Linden come into play that use social justice research, which is just socialism. It is just communism. In order to build up his bullshit diagnosis. The bad news is that you are currently suffering. Oh, I didn't know. Assuming I didn't have the PTSD right now, I wouldn't know that I'm currently suffering. I mean, Mr. Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute is telling me that I am currently suffering. Oh, you're a mind reader. This is like the snake oil salesman coming into town telling everyone you are sick and you're possessed by a demonic entity and I have the cure. Just buy my patented snake oil. Just buy this crucifix and let me exercise you. It's all the same shit. Because the very good news is that psychological science has developed effective methods for the past 100 years to help relieve that suffering. Yeah, effective methods like lobotomy or like SSRIs, which are more and more studies coming out that finally prove that the stuff is just fucking snake oil too, with lots of bullshit side effects and no real help to anyone with depression. That's great. Just hooking you on drugs. But yeah, 100 years of effective methods. We're not talking about the bad stuff, do we?
What?
There's so much bullshit in psychology. It's really it's. You want to say something to that?
What's that?
You want to say something to that?
The best I got here is I got nothing. I don't see how.
This is self-aggrandizing shit.
Yeah.
Psychological science has not even, after 100 years, has not even managed to develop a filter, a test for emotional maturity to weed out the narcissists who want to become psychotherapists and psychological researchers. As long as we don't have that, there will be bullshit galore. And psychology, like many other soft science fields, have a reproduction. I don't know what's the English term.
What term?
They have a reproduction crisis. What is that? No. They fail to reproduce the studies that they base a lot of stuff on. Someone does a repeat study of something.
Oh, a confirmation study, essentially.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm lacking the English here.
I don't know the proper term for it. I just call it a confirmation study.
Yeah. So that can have several reasons. One is that they can't recreate the circumstances for the study.
Mm-hmm.
They can't really. They don't know the specific terms, and the other one is that even when they do, they don't get the same results. Quite often, which suggests that a lot of what stuff is based on nowadays is complete bollocks. Sociology has a similar issue. And even the natural sciences, because the problem there is that nobody has an interest in financing basics, basic level studies, because they don't develop anything. So we lack a lot of verification even in the natural sciences. But that's all its own topic. Thing is just we have a big problem in science. And as we can imagine, lots of Mr. Linden's papers will be peer-reviewed. And they're complete bullshit because the peer review process is broken. It's just in-group bias.
There have been several studies done, and if you change up the models, because they don't use actual tests anymore, they use models. if you change up one slight variable, even if you put in the same variables as before, it'll come out completely different from the study that was done before.
Okay.
And I only learned recently that they are doing models instead of actual tests.
So the science goes away from exoteric approaches and goes to esoteric approaches.
Yep.
Great. So it turns into belief and faith and religion instead of science. Well, where have I heard that before? The Nazis did that with the Aryan science, because they thought everything else is Jewish science. So they, because there were a lot of Jews in science because they were competent, come from a culture of excellence that pushes for excellence, and so the Nazis, since they had such a disgust for Jews, they thought, oh, all the science is bad, we need to make our own science, and came up with Aryan science. And currently there's a similar thing going on where the social justice activists say, oh, all the science we have, that's white science. We need to make new science. And that's where we get this with that we have to accept that people can call lightning because that's what black people say that can happen. And we have to accept that as science now, the occult nonsense.
And health science is actually racist, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So and communists were also making up their own shit with everything that science comes up with must be in accordance to the ideology. Which turned up gems like Lysenkoism, that believed that or posited that all plants are working in a mutual communist fashion where they support each other, like the workers in the workers' utopia, and it's just parasites like sparrows and locusts that are just destroying the hard work of the plant collectives, and that's why. Mao let all the sparrows be killed because the sparrows were stealing the crops.
Oh man, I remember the sparrows freaking thing.
Yeah, and then the lack of sparrows led to an explosion of locusts because the sparrows weren't there to eat the locusts anymore. And that is what really destroyed the crops. And then somehow you get a famine. I wonder how that happened. Yeah, pseudoscience. We have a lot of pseudoscience creeping in, and it's all pushed by completely deranged ideologues. And there are too few scientists who take a stand against it because they all fear for their own position, if not life, at this point. So, even more impressive are the techniques. More impressive are the techniques that Eastern traditions have developed for the last 5,000 years to bring relief. So why are we even trying in the West? Come on, just do the Eastern stuff. Wisdom therapy. Yeah, wisdom therapy has integrated the best of those techniques. No, it doesn't. And has produced a systematic method for implementing them in a practical way that has been empirically confirmed to produce significant benefits. In working together, our aim will be to tailor those methods to your specific needs. The Wisdom Therapy Institute, trademarked, was created to provide a caring, respectful, trusting environment for helping you obtain those benefits. Join us. The positive stuff from Eastern traditions is basically reflected in the core of good therapy. Good therapy, without most therapists knowing about it, good therapy is based on, or rather resembles, maybe that's a better term, resembles the core, not ideals, core principles of Stoicism and Buddhism. you don't need some wisdom therapy nonsense for this. So technically, if you have someone who's versed in Stoicism and as well as Buddhist principles and practices, that person will be a better helper to you than any trained psychotherapist, because that already incorporates everything that good therapy is based upon. The rest is just a toolbox that you can share, and that is not, you don't push the tools onto the patient. It's like more you put them all on the table, explain the tools that are available, and then the patient tries them out on his or her own. Because it's the patient in a way knows best what he needs, and it's always better the patient chooses himself what tools he wants to try. And when that doesn't work, he can try the next one, and maybe he takes something from it, but it wasn't the really right one, and then you can move to something else that is more closer to that, because now you get an idea what kind of works and what doesn't, and so on. But you don't push a tool onto the patient. With things like depression, in most cases, it's very simple. You can also put more tools on the table, but it's so basic that it simply starts with, have you ever written down your problem? That is usually the main tool that it resorts to. Explain why when you're depressed you need to do sports. That's what psychotherapy, physiotherapy helps with, to get going. And then, have you ever written down your problem in handwriting? And that solves most depressed patients' issues, or at least gives a starting point where they now know, because they've mapped out the problem actually, and now after they've mapped it out, and while they've been mapping it out, they were already processing it, and now they can cut it down into smaller pieces, so it's not this giant phantom blob anymore that seems insurmountable. But now you can see, oh, it's several smaller parts. Maybe it's 100 pieces, and I actually know how to address this one piece and this other one piece. Okay, I can deal with those. Bloop. So it's not one cohesive blob. It's a 3D puzzle. And now you took out these two things, and then suddenly 5, 10, 20 other pieces just fall out, because they're just consecutive in dependence on those key things. They're just solving themselves, and suddenly the thing gets much smaller and much more easy to approach. And then you pull the next thing out of this Jenga tower, for example. And what you want is the Jenga tower that is your depression problem, your depression causing problem, to collapse. But you need to figure out which things you can pull out, because they're not all moving properly, and you can't just knock the thing over. So maybe the Jenga tower isn't the best example. So what do they think about cognitive behavioral therapy? Very short text. Cognitive behavioral therapy, in their understanding, identifies the thoughts and behaviors that tend to lead to stress, anxiety, anger, depression, and conflicts that provide the training for the skills needed to change those thoughts and behaviors. It said it's ill-formulated, but not entirely wrong. Because it's not about because if you read this in a negative way, it can read like brainwashing, but that's not what cognitive behavioral therapy is. It is helping you to reflect and find new tools, or share tools that you can use, as I just said. That's basically it. CBT is, you can use that in addition, and that's on the discretion of the therapist, because a good therapist isn't just mechanically going through stuff, but rather incorporates what is needed. And CBT elements can help with working through PTSD problems in order to map them out and understand them, like identifying the cognitions you had during the trauma and what would be a good replacement or update for them. But other than that, there's not much it's going to help you with. Maybe you have some further issues. I don't want to say underlying, but further issues, because long-term abuse victims tend to accumulate a few bad coping strategies, let's say, that can be identified and get rid of again. Maybe have issues enforcing their boundaries, and this is something where you have to redevelop your to accept your frustration and anger, because those are important. Those are where you draw the strength and the power from to actually enforce your boundaries and to say no. I've met a lot of people who were in depression wards who said who had a complete, who were at not just in enormous trouble, but were nigh. They were unable to say no to anyone because they wanted everyone to be nice and everyone to like them, and they didn't want conflict. They were so conflict avoidant, they could not say no to anyone about anything. A mean way to go about that is to deliberately create a dilemma where you force the patient into having to, where he makes a promise that he can only solve satisfying one person, but will make the other one sad. That's not how I would start a process, but it's something that forces the patient to think hard. In the beginning process, that I'd say that's way too much of an exercise. But yeah, I'm getting lost in details. Sorry. So, for example, should and must oriented thoughts regarding our demands as to what we, others, and the world must be like, and catastrophizing the outcomes if they don't match our expectations. This is an interesting thing. This is a counter to dramatizing personalities. And this reflects the problems that cluster B personality disorders have. Narcissism and its friends. The emotionally immature, especially with the catastrophizing. That's what borderliners are very prone to.
Yeah, it's usually very anxiety induced.
Mm-hmm. And always see this in front of the example of oh, you were raped, and now someone comes along and gives you this wisdom therapy crap for it, where you want some justice for it maybe, and not want your friends to be possibly stalked by this or at the mercy of this same perpetrator, like the Yazidi girls that nobody talks about anymore. The Yazidi girls were the sex slaves of ISIS.
Oh.
And they fled to Germany, had their mothers in tow, and those are actual refugees.
Right.
They left Germany again and with their mothers in tow, to Syrian refugee camps. They say they're safer there. Why is that? Well, in Germany, they got stalked. They got found and stalked by their prior ISIS captors and rapists, driving large BMWs and Mercedes.
Oh gosh!
They didn't do anything about it. Those ISIS fighters, they're still here. They're sitting on welfare. And the Yazidi girls left again, and they are rather in a Syrian refugee camp than in Germany. So you tell me, what about these politics are actually about refugees?
People who actually care, and then they don't really care. They just like to say they care.
Yeah.
Or the ones that do care are so lazy in their caring that they don't do anything. Might as well not care.
Yeah, and imagine you come to this refugee haven of Germany, and well, you expect that you're safe here from your captors, and then they just drive up at a street crossing or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the window goes down, and you see that face of the guy who raped you in the desert repeatedly, kept you in chains. And he asks how you are. By Mr. Linden, you're just catastrophizing because this wasn't life-threatening. And how dare you expect to be safe in the country of refuge to be safe from your tormentors? Insane. Other shift include, so this is another typo. Other shifts include a broader perspective of the system as a whole and the big picture. Yeah, just think of your rape in the big picture of things. You know, get a broader perspective. Like with the people have suffered for millennia and gone through the same things. And Mr. Linden also says that what was it? A common event to in the broader sense of humanity and history, but just extraordinary to you. But in the wider scope of things, it's completely common. You being raped repeatedly as a sex slave by extremists. That's in the wider context of human history and war and all of that. It's completely common. Why do you take issue? You're just bitter. You need to get some broader perspective.
Wild.
Just look at your suffering in the light of the size of the universe. Like we're just this little pale blue dot, but I'm already spoilering here. Like, look at how big the universe is and how insignificant you are in relation to that. What is the point of your why do you complain about your suffering? It's so small compared to the size of the universe. Imagine you are being told all these things after a true atrocity to your life. So, CBT also addresses the body and its physiological activations that have been conditioned during emotions such as anxiety and anger, and show up as body activations such as fast heart rate, sweat response, and muscle tension. So this is not just anger, man. This is...
Sounds like a panic attack.
Panic attack, hypervigilance. I always only remember one of the two terms: hypervigilance and not hypertension. It'll come again. Which are PTSD responses. And yeah, thanks for saying panic attack. Yeah, I know this way too well. CBT includes relaxation techniques that reduce such activations. That is in part correct. There are some tools there, but it's mainly with really severe PTSD, especially complex PTSD. Really, all you can do is breathing techniques and cooling down your body temperature. And a very, very good self-discipline about your mind. That still won't stop all breakdowns, but it will help mitigate some. Because what you basically bring it on body temperature, for example, by putting cold towels, wet cold towels on your forearms, on your forehead. That's where your body exudes. Is that a word? Most of your body's heat, and that's how you can cool your body down. Or you hold your forearms under a cold stream of water in the sink.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes sense because sorry, this is off topic, but kangaroos will lick their forearms to cool down in the height of the outback heat.
Yeah, at noon they do that.
Because there's an artery in your, I guess, artery in ours and kangaroos that goes straight to your heart. So if you cool off the blood going back to your heart, it cools down your body temperature.
Yeah, because they don't actually sweat, so they lick their forearms.
Sweat.
And it's the same with humans. It's our main heat exhaust. So top of the head, back, upper back, and forearms. That's the main heat exhaust. That's also where you sweat the most.
Yep. There is a way to cool down if you're overheating, and that is to run cold water on your arms from the shoulder down. Or just dip your arm into cold water.
Yeah.
I remember that more often. I'm really good at pouring water on the top of my head.
That can make you pass out because it's a shock to your system that way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. But I've done this. Oh God, not just a couple times. You could say regularly. When I still have enough strength and control to get up and get to the sink, I let cold water pass down my arms, because it's like it's a feedback system. If you get the temperature of the body down, your parasympathetic nervous system thinks, I can't maintain the threat response, so maybe the threat is over. That's what it seems like. That's what seems to be going on. But if you don't have that, if you have someone, because sometimes you're already too deep in the thing, and then you can't even risk getting up because the physical exercise of getting up and taking those few steps is already too much for your body and drives you over the edge. It sounds ridiculous, but it's really that thin, that hair thin line.
Well, it's already spending so much energy trying to hold inward, but it makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's a maximum level PTSD breakdown can look similar to an epileptic seizure in many aspects. There's some key differences, like the spasms are not rhythmic. In an epileptic seizure, it's rhythmic. In a PTSD breakdown, the spasms are in response to the, let's say, a trauma movie running through your head, to the situations and events and thoughts that happen. And the eyes are usually closed, while in an epileptic seizure they're open. And an epileptic seizure, patients can be biting their tongue, while in a traumatic thing, the tongue bite is not happening. So key differences, but from the untrained eye, it looks very, very similar to an epileptic seizure, and that can also end up with head bashing into the ground, for example. It's very bad. So you want to prevent that level of breakdown at all costs, and they can take up to an hour. Being in that state of mind, if it's really bad, if it's really severe trauma, because if it's a complex trauma, it's like going from one trauma complex to the next in that whole story of your trauma's history. And if it's really bad, at the end it starts from the beginning again, and you go through this roller coaster a couple times, and after that you'll be exhausted for days. And so if you have someone with you, that someone can at least bring you some wet towels to cool you down where you're sitting. If you don't have that, tough situation. Then all luck and strength to you to make it to the sink, if you can still manage that. Simon says, only electroconvulsive therapy is truly relaxing. Is that what they use for people with damaged nerve endings?
That is one thing that they do. Yes.
Yeah, a friend of mine has that issue, and he's I think he's considering trying this because it's not Parkinson in his case, but it's nerve damage from something else, and he's in real pain at this point, constantly. Yeah, so you can not most, but a lot of things in the human body are feedback systems and feedback loops that you can exploit. Like this whole thing about if you smile for long enough, then you get a bit happy. Because usually when you're happy, you naturally smile. And this does work. Like for 5 minutes practice smiling, forcing yourself to smile, feels ridiculous at first. But the smile has to go all the way up to your eyebrows. It's not just the mouth, it's not just the lips. But you can trigger with that a positive response and get some endorphins out into your system. And you can do this with every other facial expression and will get an emotional response from it. If you always look, if you force yourself to look angry, you will build up some adrenaline. This is also John Peterson mentioned this as well in his slogan, "Stand up straight with your shoulders back," because that is what gives a feedback system change to your mood and to your self-image. It makes you more confident, while the hunched over position makes you less confident and more submissive. So these systems are important to exploit if you're conscious of them. And
submissive but not breedable. Sorry.
Yeah. But and the same goes for the heat system. Bring your body down. Bring your body temperature down. If you have PTSD issues, be aware that you can bring your body temperature down, and thereby you can mitigate a breakdown.
So I found some treatments for ECT.
Mm-hmm.
It treats severe depression, treatment-resistant depression, severe mania, catatonia, agitation and aggression in people with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
They put you into they use anesthesia on you, and
Mm-hmm.
they basically give you a minor seizure to reformat your brain.
Okay.
But
software update.
So it's the updated version of electroshock therapy?
Instead of using electroshock, they use electric current.
Okay.
And it sends impulses into your brain to realign parts of your brain.
Okay. This is for psychosis, depression mainly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very important distinction.
The risks are confusion, memory loss, physical side effects, and medical complications, though these are very, very rare now.
Okay. Because they figured out enough bugs in this.
Yep.
Hopefully. Yeah. Interesting side topic. So I'm not familiar with any developments in this. If they figured out the bugs in this, praise to you. Oh yeah, so we talked about it. So this is basically all they have on CBT, which is not a lot. It's a very, very shortened rundown, and yeah, as I said, it's a bit the catastrophizing part. That's God. That's what you find in the cluster B personality disorders. Narcissism, borderline, histrionic types, they do that for different reasons. God. Mindfulness meditation. The wonders. My favorite sub part of this. God, I hate this. Mindfulness meditation increases our ability to be present in our daily activities. Our focus on what we're doing in the here and now, rather than on the past or the future. I need more energy drinks. Yeah, just I'm doing it here and now for getting in another energy drink. If my poncho, it wouldn't be stuck right now in my chair. However, it managed that. Holy shit! What the hell? It's stuck in the mechanism. What the hell? Okay. Well.
Oh, is Wisp trapped?
Do what?
Is Wisp trapped?
Oh no.
Yes.
Wisps, don't be trapped.
What is this?
No, Wisp. No.
What?
Did you get
The
trapped?
chair was eating my poncho. So what is this here? This is Monster Assault. Okay, I haven't had this one yet. Does this have shit I shouldn't put in my system? No, it doesn't look like it. Nope. It has proper sugar, not any of this shit stuff that gives me headaches. Oh dear. Should I have deactivated the microphone?
That's okay.
Okay.
That wasn't bad for me.
This looks like cola. Tastes like cola. Interesting. Yeah, it's a monster that tastes like cola instead of the blood of gummy bears. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, it's like bit of a cherry taste. Interesting. So number one contradiction. Mr. Linden and the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute wants to give us perspective about the far future, about long-term planning and stuff. But it wants us to be in the here and now rather than in the past or the future. So while it is true that people can be trapped in worries about the past or worries about the future and forget the here and now. When you develop the ability to really enjoy the here and now despite those worries, because it's learning from the past and planning for the future. When you're mature enough, mentally, emotionally mature enough, you can, despite everything, enjoy the moment and use the moment for the best. What these Western pseudoscience, pseudo-esoteric people, or pretty esoteric people, all get wrong is that they then only focus on the here and now and ignore the past and ignore the future, which is something that a toddler does. The toddler is solely in the here and now. And that is, in an adult, when an adult acts that way, that's just selfish hedonism. Not necessarily selfish, but definitely hedonism. The selfishness can often accompany that. And that is quite narcissistic. So what you need is a balance of all three. When you're mature, you have a balance of all three. You realize you're in the here and now, but the future is not going to paralyze you, and the past is not trapping you. With trauma, that's a bit difficult because that's a process you can't just manually get rid of. You need help with that. But without that, that's something you can cultivate. And meditation does help with that. Mindfulness meditation, to my experience, does not allow for this. Mindfulness meditation is something very different that I'm gonna talk about after this text. That's just what is important about this first line. The practice of developing the skill is grounded in 2,500 years of Buddhism. That is warping so much already, but has been made more accessible in modern times in the West. Researchers and practitioners. This is not a sentence. I think there should be a comma or something. Researchers and practitioners such as John Kabat-Zinn, who in the last 2 decades, so this is from 2008, so since 88 or something, in the last 2 decades, has developed a modern model of this perspective that he coined mindfulness-based stress reduction. So this sentence tells us a bit about the bullshit, because if you already say that Buddhism, 2,500 years of Buddhism have been made more accessible for modern times and for the West. What this essentially means is that, well, this is something that only the people in the East really understand. We Westerners, we're too dumb for it. We can't comprehend what worked for other people for 2,500 years. The whole thing about mindfulness meditation is that it is a guided meditation that focuses mainly on perception of your senses. Like it's a guided meditation for the most part. That says, oh, now focus on your left arm, focus on your right arm, and then the feelings you receive, the sensory input, the slight breeze you feel on your face. Focus on that. On that sound from the other room, so that you hone your senses more or less. However, this is not really a meditation in the actual sense. And this skill of mindfulness of your surroundings, this perception increase, is something you get automatically with normal meditation. So there's to my knowledge and experience, there is no consciousness development with mindfulness meditation. That is something you get with, for example, Soto Zen or Bön Buddhism meditation, which are 2 completely different schools of meditation, but they lead to the same result. Like Soto Zen works without anything, while Bön Buddhism uses mantra. But essentially, they go to the same place. And the thing is about meditation is that you cannot meditate to achieve something. That doesn't work. You can only get something out of meditation when you do not want anything from it, when you have no goal with it, when you do not seek to achieve anything with it. Then it is that you get something from it, which is a bit counterintuitive. But that's how it works, because as long as you want something from it, your mind is actively working. But meditation only really works when your mind is not, your consciousness is not working, and it's detached from wanting anything. But I'll get into that later. So I think this whole thing that meditation had to be remade to be more accessible for the West is just bollocks. That's just that someone wanted to make money off something and wanted to sell a new model to people, instead of just doing for Soto Zen. You don't need anything. The simple version, the simplest explanation for Soto Zen is sit. So yes, the silence is part of the joke. So that my microphone did not have a malfunction. And it's simply you do nothing else. You just sit and you do not interact with your thoughts as they come up and go. And the first few times you will have some. It will be like a mind storm. It can be a bit overwhelming at first for people. That is your brain, your subconscious, filtering out all the crap. It's like it's cleaning your room, but in your head. And after those stormy times, yes, and after those stormy times, you will get a more clearer version of that, which is it's like a thought will come up, an unprocessed thought, and it may be something you like, it may be something you dislike, it can be something you're indifferent about. The important thing is that you do not interact with the thought. You just let it pass, because it will. So you do not, when it's a nice thought, you do not cling to it. And when it's a disgusting thought or a scary thought, you do not push it away. You just let it come up, and then you let it pass. And that's how these things are processed out, and you have more and more room in your head. And usually people meditate for about 20 minutes. It's like a natural timer, and I don't know why. That's the average that people do once they're used to it. Usual starts for people is like 5 minutes, especially in the mindstorm phase. And the problem is with PTSD, at least let's say severe PTSD, that's a break-off point somewhere. With mild PTSD, you can meditate. With severe PTSD, in this mindstorm, in this working up the stack of unprocessed thoughts, the PTSD is in that stack. Because in this is what you do in meditation, is you work through the thoughts that your REM sleep isn't processing, that your dreams aren't processing. You're in meditation, you process the other stuff that's on the porch of your mind. Problem is there's the PTSD. So that will come up. And if it's severe PTSD you will just automatically, I hate the word, but trigger a massive breakdown. And I'm telling you, I've been meditating since I was 14. But since this severe shit, I can't meditate anymore. I've tried every few months again, and it's not meditation. It's just like at best an inner struggle to not be ripped into pieces. And I can maybe do that for a minute at maximum now. It's not meditation. It's just a fight to not be torn apart. And the trauma wants to come to the forefront immediately. I can't do it anymore. And this is something that always anchored me. So once this stack is processed out, this is the important part. If you get to the point where this and that takes months. So if you meditate once or twice a week, it will take months until the stack is worked up, and because every day you get new stuff onto it, so it just gradually gets smaller. But once the stack is gone and empty, you will get to I'd say third phase of meditation. That is the actual phase where your mind is in a state where it has the resources available now to focus on consciousness development. And people repeatedly tell that during that phase especially, that it can start before that, but they have all similar dreams, or they have the same dream symbols in their dreams that are all from dream interpretation, all stand for representations of consciousness development, consciousness epiphanies, and so on. So they're not all the exact same dream, but they have similar symbols in them. And I'm not going to spoil it, because that would just then just someone could tell me could say that, oh, you put these thoughts into the people's heads, that's why they have the dreams now. No. And and with this kind of meditation, you can increase your order of consciousness very slowly, and thereby also your emotional maturity. Mindfulness meditation cannot do this because you're constantly occupied with focusing on something. With Soto Zen and Bön meditation, for example, there are other meditation types. You do not focus on anything. And that is why your brain can use its resources for consciousness development. I hope I didn't go into too much tism with this, but this is really important to me. This is why I have such a burning disdain for Sam Harris, since he's been pushing this mindfulness meditation crap. And because it took him three discussions with Jordan Peterson to even understand what he was talking about. Like the two guys were really talking for three times on a stage until both of them realized they were both talking about the same bloody shit, just from different positions. They had the same position. They were just using so different words that they couldn't understand each other. And personally, I mainly blame this on Sam Harris more than it took John Peterson to figure this out himself. But I blame it more on Sam Harris because he thinks of himself as so smart when he isn't. And he made assumptions about Peterson's positions that were complete bonkers.
Like everyone does when they first, like, they don't.
Yeah, because he thinks Peterson is a super religious guy when he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And Peterson has this open mind where he doesn't assume the other's position. Assume what the other's position is, rather.
Yeah.
And that's why. Oh God.
I will say
Champions
though,
of atheism. Fuck you.
Everything is bullshit. But I think Cyrus has to get to bed soon.
Yeah. We can get through humility after this. It's not long, I think. We can just click on it and just gonna finish this sentence, and you can decide whether we're gonna do this. Because I'm not gonna. This won't be as long as of a bonus talk in the middle of everything as this here. Because I claim to know a little bit about meditation, and this I find this insulting on so many levels. Also insulting about the West, the entirety of the West. Like as if the West needs to be held on its hands because it's so dumb and small and just a stupid child. Like give people some credence. Is that a word? Credit. Yeah, thank you. Some credit. Like when you treat children not like adults, but give them a little bit more credit to their intelligence and to their cognitive ability, then they will also mature better and faster. And it's also how you get them out of narcissism. When you treat them like children until their 20s and 30s, yeah, they will remain children mentally. That's how you get that. So, he has also verified the effectiveness of this practice through dozens of scientific studies that demonstrated its reductions of anxiety, anger, stress, health problems, pain, and a variety of other challenges. Yeah, you get that with all the real meditation types as well as what he wants to achieve with mindfulness. That's you get that just as a bonus. And what you don't get with this shit is consciousness development. Ooh.
But they don't link any of the sources.
Yep.
No. But maybe that's a resource tab here. So maybe.
Oh, we have to go dig in that later.
Yeah. So as I told you, so Linden wants to put people with severe PTSD, which are the most likely to answer his questionnaire, his misleading questionnaire, positively, and put them to a type of meditation that will just trigger their fucking PTSD automatically. This is insane. So, what do they understand as humility? Oh, okay, this is a bit longer. It's probably too long for today.
Oh yeah, that's way too long for today.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jews. Sorry.
So, then let's just look at the first two paragraphs. They're pretty short to get an idea of what we want to not read. Humility includes an appreciation that our perception and thoughts about others, ourselves, events, and the world are subjective and tentative. So he thinks humility is about us accepting that our view on the world is not absolute and perfect and correct, which is something that narcissists don't understand. And hell, I've met the one especially seemed like a psychopath. She was a subjectivist. She demanded that her subjective interpretation of reality is of course the correct one, because she felt attacked by me because I was frustrated with something that didn't have to do with her. I was telling her, because she asked about it, about some of the bad stuff that happened. So I got a bit tense and talked with a more stern voice. And she then claimed she felt attacked by me. That means I was attacking her. And that is because in her subjective view, that is the case, and therefore it's true. And I told her, like, what? And but what if your subjective worldview is not in congruence with objective reality? Oh, that doesn't matter. Her subjective worldview is correct. Like, what about my subjective worldview, where I am not attacking you?
No, it's only their subjective worldview because they can use that to beat you over the head.
Yeah. And by the way, no answer on that. So you can even abuse this subjective thing, because technically there is something to it, that you only see a slice of the world. And this is something you can take from the mystics of all religions. You can put them all in a room, and you could say they all talk about God. Like, God is the object in the center of the room, and everyone's looking from a different perspective at this object and sees a different side of it in a different shape, therefore, from this polygon. And the mystics, they will pat each other on the shoulders and laugh at the end of the day, because they understand that everyone's just has a piece of the pie. But everyone together, if they put the pieces of the pie together, they get a whole pie. When you put the dogmatists, the dogmatics of all world religions, into one room, and they look at God, at this God object, this God polygon, every one of them will insist that his slice of the pie is the only correct one. And at the end of the day, they will have murdered each other.
Mm-hmm.
This is what with narcissists happens, because they all expect that their slice of the pie is the objectively correct one.
Yes, and no one can ever agree.
Yeah. And what the socialists are trying to tell us is that all the slices of the pie are valid. So far true, but that they're all correct by themselves, that there is no objective pie that they can form together. That's what they deny, because putting the pieces together, forming the whole pie, that would be objective reality, that we can figure out and measure by putting all our perspectives together. And the socialists tear that idea apart by denying us to put these pieces together. So that
cultural appropriation.
Yeah, that's why they claim that there are all these realities that coexist with one another. But that's delusional, because they refuse to make this last step, and I think that's deliberate in some way. So that's just me bickering about the first sentence. Great. So subjective means that others perceiving the same event can have very different interpretations of that event. It's a different thing that I talked about, but a bit similar. For example, we may argue with a loved one or a colleague, and later they report a very different experience of what they thought the argument was about. That is not the same thing as a subjective perspective. That's just them. That just says you did not understand what we were talking about. We haven't even checked whether we were talking about the same thing. That's a communication issue. It's a communication error. Maybe it's someone warping his memories so that he looks good in his memories, and there was no issue at all. That's not a question of different perspectives. This is not a question of subjectivism. This is a question of miscommunication. This is why I think this is completely going the wrong way. This understanding of humility is going the completely wrong way.
Y'all have to be humble.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with humility. This is just figuring out, are we even talking? Because it's what you need to do. Even if both parties use the same words, if you understand these words differently, because you have different definitions about it, you will talk past each other, because technically speaking, you're speaking different languages. Because the language we use, the sounds we make, the words we write, those are just representations of the things we try to convey. And if we don't have the same code for the ideas we want to convey, if we use the wrong words, we're talking about cutlery and we're talking about forks, but my understanding of the term fork is spoon. So we both use the word fork, but we will start to argue, because I would insist that you use forks in order to eat soup, which to you sounds completely ridiculous. And you will tell me that no, you use forks in order to eat steak, which to me sounds completely ridiculous, because when I use the word fork, I picture a spoon. And eating a steak with a spoon sounds completely ridiculous. Looks and sounds completely ridiculous. So we have to figure out: are we even using the words correct? So maybe even more funny, if I have the misconception that the word fork refers to a spoon, and you have the misconception that the word fork refers to a knife, it will get even more ridiculous. Because maybe we figure out, oh, we're talking about a different thing. Okay, now we both agree on one definition of our two definitions. Now we both agree, okay, the word fork refers to what we imagine to be a knife. We're still both wrong. But at least we can communicate with each other now.
Oh, yeah.
And this is basically the problem that he's describing here. That has nothing to do with subjectivism or subjective issues in that sense. It's just this is just miscommunication. This is not a different interpretation about an event, like oh, I witnessed someone being cruel to someone else. Oh, I came there from the other side, and it looked different from that angle because something was obscured. Like the examples with the journalist photos from war, where, well, you have the way, depending on how you crop the photo, you can give the photo completely different context, make it look more violent, switch around the perpetrator-victim narrative, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a completely different issue.
Oh yeah, but I think we're getting close to
4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said this would be. I promise you to end it here.
Yeah. So, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Mike Testa, for, hanging around and listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so what do you think? Closing words, Seda?
It's that's a timer. It sounds like re-education.
I have to agree with Cedar on that one.
This is what it is. Like meditation. Yeah, meditate on our thoughts. Humility. You have to be humid. Or you have to be humble. So it's as the kids would call, sussy.
Don't forget one of the opening lines of this was to teach you how to be loyal.
Teach you how to be. Ooh, that's gross.
I find increase company loyalty.
Yeah.
Company loyalty. Fuck the bitch. But yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Increasing company loyalty could be so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Company loyalty. I'm not loyal to my job. They're not loyal to me. Of course, the loyalty is always one way, but
the job's there to make money, to feed and pay rent and have something extra for hobbies that constitute the actual life.
Right. Yeah.
We have a part in our lives that we work, and we work that in order to have some other part of our life where we can actually enjoy stuff.
Yeah, that's what I do, but I gotta get to bed to get to work tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Cyrek, closing words?
I pretty much said mine.
Okay.
It's pretty similar, yeah.
I'm also tired, so I'm missing things at this point. It's 2:30 a.m. here.
Oh wow.
But thanks to energy drinks. Oh God. Do you want to continue this? I have to ask because I don't want to needlessly talk to you. You have to want it. You have to want the whip.
We're here to help.
Okay.
Get through
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
I do want to know what they say about humility.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. I will let you know whenever I have free time again.
All right. Seda, you want to be part of this again?
We'll have to see what time it is.
All right. What a night.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you for dropping by.
Yes, everyone. I am glad you enjoyed in the chat, and yeah, we will for now leave the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute, and at a later date that has yet to be determined, but probably not this week. We will revisit the Wisdom Therapy Trademarked Institute. I love saying that. I can't stop.
It's pretty good.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.